The gunshot shattered the crystal chandeliers before I even knew his last name. That's how my fairy tale began. Not with a glass slipper, but with broken glass raining down on a wedding reception and a man in an Italian suit pulling me behind a marble column. 24 hours earlier, I was just another single mom drowning in judgment at my cousin's wedding. Then Giovanni Fioraldi asked me to dance, and suddenly the Russian Mafia wanted me dead. If you want to know how a fake relationship became the most dangerous love of my life, stay until the end. Hit that like button and comment your city so I can see how far this story travels. The champagne tasted like regret. Jessica Reed sat at table 12, the table they always save for the misfits, the divorced, the perpetually single, the ones who'd somehow failed at the sacred institution everyone else seemed to navigate so effortlessly. She'd known the moment she opened the seating chart email that she'd been relegated to purgatory, wedged between her twice-divorced Uncle Martin, who smelled like cigars and regret, and her cousin's friend from college, whose name she'd already forgotten. The Drake Hotel ballroom glittered with the kind of opulence that made Jessica's credit card debt feel even more suffocating. Crystal chandeliers dripped from 20-foot ceilings, casting prismatic light across tables draped in ivory silk. Ice sculptures of swans melted slowly near the bar, their graceful necks beginning to droop as the evening wore on. Everything was perfect, polished, expensive, a stark contrast to Jessica's own courthouse wedding 7 years ago, followed by divorce papers 3 years after that. Another glass, and the server appeared at her elbow, already reaching for her empty flute. "Please." Jessica didn't care that her mother was watching from table 3 with that pinched expression that said, "Drinking alone again, Jessica." She was 32 years old, and she'd stopped caring what her mother thought somewhere around the time her ex-husband, Derek, had emptied their joint savings account and moved to Phoenix with his 23-year-old yoga instructor. That was 14 months ago. The family still asked about him at gatherings, as if his absence was somehow more scandalous than his betrayal. "You came alone?" Her Aunt Patricia materialized beside her chair, a vision in plum taffeta and passive aggression. "Where's little Lily tonight?" Little Lily, as if her daughter was an accessory Jessica had simply forgotten to bring. "She's 6, Aunt Patricia. She's at home with Mrs. Chen from downstairs. Wedding receptions aren't exactly appropriate for first graders." Patricia's lips pursed. "Well, I suppose you'd know best about what's appropriate." The words dripped with implication. Such a shame about Derek. He was so charming. Jessica's fingers tightened around her champagne flute. Derek was a lying, cheating bastard who stole $40,000 and abandoned his daughter. But yes, very charming. Patricia's hand fluttered to her chest. "Jessica Ann Reed, there's no need for that kind of language." "At a wedding? You're probably right. Excuse me." Jessica stood abruptly, her chair scraping against the marble floor. She needed air, or more champagne, preferably both. The ladies' room was a sanctuary of marble and gold fixtures, mercifully empty except for one woman reapplying lipstick at the mirror. Jessica locked herself in a stall and pressed her forehead against the cool metal door. What was she doing here? Lily had clung to her before she left, her small hands twisted in the fabric of Jessica's dress, the only formal gown she owned, purchased on clearance 3 years ago and already starting to show its age. "Don't go, Mommy. Stay and watch Encanto with me." And Jessica had wanted to. God, she'd wanted to stay in their small apartment, wrapped in her daughter's unconditional love, far from the judgment of her family. But her mother had called 3 times to ensure she'd be attending. It's family, Jessica. You can't keep isolating yourself. So here she was, isolated in a room full of family. She emerged from the bathroom to find the reception in full swing. The DJ had transitioned from classical cocktail music to something more upbeat. Couples flooded the dance floor, wrapped in each other's arms, moving to some romantic ballad Jessica didn't recognize. Her cousin Amber, the bride, was spinning in her new husband's arms, her face radiant with the kind of joy that came from knowing someone had chosen you, would keep choosing you, every single day. Jessica felt the familiar ache in her chest. She'd had that once, or thought she had. "You look like you'd rather be anywhere else." The voice came from behind her, deep, textured with an accent she couldn't quite place. Italian, maybe, or Mediterranean. Jessica turned and found herself looking up at a man who seemed somehow out of place in this sea of Chicago society. He was tall, well over 6 feet, with dark hair swept back from a face that belonged in a Renaissance painting. Sharp cheekbones, a strong jaw, eyes so dark they were almost black. His suit was immaculate, clearly custom-tailored, and probably cost more than Jessica's car. But it wasn't his appearance that struck her. It was the way he carried himself, with a kind of controlled power that made everyone else in the room seem slightly less substantial. That obvious? Jessica managed. His mouth curved into something that wasn't quite a smile. I've been watching you for the past hour. You've perfected the art of looking engaged while being completely disconnected. That's either very perceptive or very creepy. Perhaps both. Now he did smile, and it transformed his entire face. I'm Giovanni. He extended his hand and Jessica took it automatically. His grip was firm, warm, and sent an unexpected jolt through her system. Jessica. I know. At her surprised look, he gestured toward the seating chart display near the entrance. I made it my business to know. You're the bride's cousin, the one who came alone. There it was again, the defining characteristic, the one who came alone. And you are? She pulled her hand back, suddenly defensive. Also alone, also contemplating escape. He tilted his head toward the bar. Can I buy you a drink? Though technically I suppose it's an open bar, so I'd simply be accompanying you to an alcoholic beverage you could obtain yourself. Despite everything, Jessica felt herself smile. That's the least romantic proposition I've ever heard. Then allow me to revise. Would you permit me the pleasure of your company while we both engage in socially acceptable day drinking? Much better. The bar was crowded, but people seemed to part for Giovanni like water around a stone. The bartender appeared immediately, abandoning 2 other customers mid-order. What would you like? Giovanni asked. Whatever's strongest. The lady will have a maker's mark. Neat. And I'll take the same. As the bartender poured, Jessica studied Giovanni more carefully. There was something about him that didn't fit. His clothes were too expensive, his presence too commanding. He didn't have the soft edges of old Chicago money or the desperate flash of new wealth. He was something else entirely. You're not from here, she said. No. Italy? Originally, I've lived many places. He handed her the bourbon and their fingers brushed. And you? Born and raised in Chicago? Unfortunately. You don't like your city? I don't like my family. The words slipped out before she could stop them, loosened by champagne and bourbon and the strange comfort of talking to someone who didn't know her history. Sorry, that was honest. Giovanni's dark eyes studied her with unsettling intensity. I appreciate honesty. It's rare. What brings you to this particular circle of hell? Jessica took a sip of bourbon and felt it burn down her throat. Friend of the groom? Business associate of the bride's father. Something flickered across his face, too quick to read. I was invited as a courtesy. I almost didn't come. Wish I'd had that option. Family obligation? The worst kind. The kind where they make you feel guilty for existing. Jessica drained half her bourbon in one swallow. My mother called 3 times to make sure I'd be here. Apparently my continued isolation from the family is becoming concerning. Are you isolated? I'm a single mother with a 6-year-old daughter and a mountain of debt left by my cheating ex-husband. I work 50 hours a week as a paralegal, spend every weekend at soccer games and birthday parties, and haven't had an adult conversation in approximately 14 months. So yes, I'd say I'm pretty fucking isolated. Giovanni's eyebrow lifted slightly at her language, but he didn't seem shocked. If anything, he looked intrigued. Your family doesn't support you? Jessica laughed, sharp and bitter. My family thinks I failed. Failed marriage, failed life choices, failed to land another man before my eggs dry up. I'm the cautionary tale they tell their daughters. She gestured toward the dance floor where her cousin Melissa was grinding against her boyfriend of 3 weeks. See what happens when you don't lock one down early? And your daughter's father? In Phoenix with his 23-year-old girlfriend, pretending he never had a family. Jessica finished her bourbon. But enough about my tragic backstory. What's yours? Why is a man who looks like you sitting alone at a wedding bar? Who says I'm alone? Giovanni's expression was unreadable. Perhaps I'm exactly where I want to be. Before Jessica could respond, her mother appeared, her face tight with forced cheerfulness. Jessica, there you are. I've been looking everywhere for... She stopped short, her eyes widening as she took in Giovanni. Oh, I didn't realize you were... I didn't know you'd brought someone. I didn't, Jessica started, but Giovanni smoothly interrupted. Mrs. Reed, I presume? I'm Giovanni Fioraldi. Your daughter was gracious enough to keep me company while I acclimate to your lovely family gathering. He took her mother's hand and actually kissed it, a gesture that should have seemed absurd but somehow came off as perfectly natural. Her mother practically melted. Oh my. Well, that's... Jessica, why didn't you mention you were seeing someone? I'm not... We've been keeping things quiet, Giovanni said smoothly, his hand finding the small of Jessica's back. The touch sent electricity up her spine. Jessica values her privacy. As do I. Her mother's face transformed from pinched disapproval to delighted surprise. Well, this is wonderful, simply wonderful. You must come sit at our table. Jessica's father would love to meet you. What did you say you do, Mr. Fioraldi? I didn't. Giovanni's smile didn't reach his eyes. I'm in import/export, international trade primarily. How fascinating. Come. You can't spend the whole evening at the bar. Before Jessica could protest, Giovanni was being led away by her mother, his hand still resting possessively on her back. She had no choice but to follow, her mind reeling. What the hell just happened? Table 3 was prime real estate, close to the head table, populated by her parents, her Uncle Robert the neurosurgeon, and her Aunt Catherine who'd married into oil money. These were the family success stories, the ones who'd made it, and now Jessica was being seated among them with a mysterious stranger pretending to be her boyfriend. Dad, this is Giovanni Fioraldis, her mother gushed. He's Jessica's... Well, they've been seeing each other. Her father looked up from his prime rib, his expression skeptical. James Reed was a retired attorney, a man who'd built his career on reading people and situations. He extended his hand to Giovanni, and Jessica watched as the two men sized each other up in that way men do, all posturing and subtle dominance displays. Fioraldi, her father repeated. Italian? Yes. And you're in Chicago for business? Among other things. Her father's eyes narrowed slightly. What kind of import/export? Various commodities. Wine, primarily. Some olive oil, artisanal goods. I work with family connections in Italy to bring quality products to American markets. Giovanni's answer was smooth, practiced. Though I'm expanding into other ventures. And how did you meet my daughter? Jessica opened her mouth, but once again Giovanni was faster. At a charity event 3 months ago, she was there representing her law firm. I was there representing my business interests. We struck up a conversation about Italian wine regions, and... He turned to Jessica, his dark eyes intense. I was captivated. Her mother actually sighed. Why haven't we heard about this before? Her father wasn't buying it, and Jessica couldn't blame him. Because it's new, Dad, and because I knew exactly how everyone would react. Jessica surprised herself with how easily the lie came. You'd all start planning the wedding before we'd even had a second date. Can you blame us? Aunt Catherine chimed in. After Derek, we were worried you'd given up entirely. I haven't given up, Jessica said tightly. I've been focusing on Lily and my career. Of course, dear, her mother patted her hand, but it's nice to see you with someone who seems substantial. Substantial. As if Derek had been insubstantial. As if the 7 years of her life she'd invested in that marriage had been built on air. The DJ announced it was time for the bride and groom's first dance, and the room's attention shifted to the dance floor. Amber and her new husband swayed to At Last, while cameras flashed and guests cooed. Under the cover of the music, Jessica leaned toward Giovanni. What are you doing? She hissed. Saving you from your family's judgment. His voice was low, meant only for her. You looked like you were drowning. So you decided to lie to my parents? You didn't correct me. He was right. She hadn't. And even now, with her mother beaming at her for the first time in months, with her father grudgingly impressed, with Aunt Catherine actually looking at her with something other than pity, she didn't want to correct him. "This is insane," Jessica whispered. "Perhaps." Giovanni's hand found hers under the table, his thumb tracing circles on her palm. "Or perhaps it's an opportunity." "For what?" "For both of us to get what we want. You want your family to stop treating you like a failure. I want—" He paused, something complicated crossing his face. "Let's just say I have my own reasons for wanting to appear attached." "This is crazy." "Yes, we don't even know each other." "We could." Jessica's heart was pounding. This was ridiculous, insane. She should stand up right now, tell everyone the truth, and dance with me. Giovanni stood, extending his hand. Around them, other couples were joining the bride and groom on the dance floor. Don't think, just dance." Jessica took his hand. The dance floor was crowded, but Giovanni pulled her close, one hand on her waist, the other holding hers. He moved with confidence, leading her through the steps with an ease that suggested ballroom training. Jessica, who'd learned to dance from YouTube videos before her own wedding, tried not to step on his expensive Italian shoes. "Relax," he murmured against her ear. "You're doing fine." "I'm a terrible dancer." "You're a woman who's forgotten how to let someone else lead." His hand tightened on her waist. "There's a difference." They moved together, and despite her initial awkwardness, Jessica found herself falling into rhythm. Giovanni's chest was solid against her, his cologne subtle and expensive. She could feel eyes on them, her mother, her aunts, cousins she hadn't spoken to in years, all watching with renewed interest. "They're staring," she whispered. "Let them." "This is going to blow up in our faces." "Probably." Giovanni pulled back enough to look at her, his dark eyes unreadable. "But right now, in this moment, you're not the divorced single mother they pity. You're a woman at a wedding with a handsome man who can't take his eyes off her. You're very confident." "I'm Italian, it's genetic," Jessica laughed, surprising herself. When was the last time she'd laughed at a wedding? When was the last time she'd felt anything other than obligation and resentment at these family gatherings? The song shifted into something slower, more intimate. Giovanni pulled her closer until there was barely any space between them. His hand spread across her lower back, warm through the thin fabric of her dress. "Tell me about your daughter," he said softly. "Lily?" Jessica felt her chest tighten with the familiar mixture of love and worry that came with single motherhood. "She's 6, first grade, obsessed with dinosaurs and Disney princesses in equal measure, which makes birthday shopping interesting. She's smart, funny, completely fearless." Jessica trailed off. "She's everything." "And her father doesn't see her?" "Derek sends a card on her birthday. Sometimes. Last year he forgot." The old anger flared. "He has a new life now. We don't fit into it." "He's a fool." "Yes, he is. But I'm the one left explaining to my daughter why Daddy doesn't call, why he didn't come to her school play, why he—" Jessica stopped herself. "Sorry, you didn't sign up for my therapy session." "I asked." Giovanni's thumb traced small circles on her back. "And I meant it. Tell me more." So she did. Under the cover of music and movement, surrounded by her judgmental family, Jessica found herself talking to this stranger about things she barely admitted to herself. The financial struggle, the loneliness, the constant fear that she was failing Lily, that her daughter would grow up damaged by her father's abandonment and her mother's inability to fix it. And Giovanni listened, really listened, in a way Jessica couldn't remember being heard in years. "You're a good mother," he said when she finally fell silent. "Anyone can see that." "You've never even met her." "I don't need to. I can see it in the way you talk about her. The way you left her tonight even though you didn't want to, because your family demanded it. You're trying to maintain connections you don't even value because you think it's what she needs." Jessica blinked back unexpected tears. "That's very perceptive for someone who's known me for an hour. I'm good at reading people. It's a survival skill." Something in his tone made Jessica look up sharply. There was a hardness in his expression now, a hint of something darker beneath the charming surface. "What do you really do, Giovanni?" I told you. Import/export. Bullshit! The word came out sharper than she intended. You're too smooth, too practiced. The way people react to you, the way the bartender jumped, the way my father looked at you like he was trying to figure out what game you're playing. Jessica stepped back slightly, studying him. Who are you really? For a long moment, Giovanni said nothing. The music swelled around them, couples spinning past in a blur of silk and laughter. Then he leaned in close, his lips nearly touching her ear. I'm exactly who I said I am, but I'm also someone who understands the value of appearances, of alliances, of having people believe certain things about you that may or may not be entirely true. He pulled back to look at her. Just like you're doing right now. I'm not. You are. You're letting your family believe we're together because it's easier than explaining why you're alone. Because for the first time in months, they're looking at you with something other than pity. His dark eyes searched hers. I'm offering you a chance to continue that, to give them what they want to see. Why would you do that? What could you possibly get out of pretending to date a broke single mother? Giovanni's jaw tightened. Let's just say that my business associates would prefer to see me settled, attached, less of a wild card. And your family would prefer to see you not alone. We both have people we need to convince. This is insane. You've said that already. Because it is. Jessica pulled away from him entirely now, stumbling slightly as another couple swept past. You're suggesting we… What? Fake an entire relationship? Why not? People do it all the time. Half the marriages in this room are probably built on less authentic connections than what we have right now. We don't have a connection. We just met. And yet you told me things I doubt you've told anyone in months. Giovanni's expression softened. Look, I'm not asking for forever. I'm asking for a few weeks, maybe a few months, long enough for my business associates to stop worrying about my stability. Long enough for your family to stop looking at you like you're broken. Jessica wanted to say no. Should say no. This was crazy, reckless, the kind of decision that led to disaster. But then she caught sight of her mother at the edge of the dance floor, talking animatedly to Aunt Catherine, both of them glancing over with approval. Of her father, nodding slowly as Uncle Robert said something she couldn't hear. Of her cousin Melissa, staring with unconcealed envy. For the first time since Derek left, they weren't looking at her with pity. What would this entail? The words came out before she could stop them. Giovanni's eyes gleamed. Occasional public appearances. Enough to be convincing. Family dinners, perhaps? Events where people need to see us together. And Lily? Would never know it's not real. I'd treat her with the same respect I'd treat any child. Better, because she's yours. This is a terrible idea. Probably. I should say no. You should. But I'm not going to, am I? Giovanni smiled, slow and devastating. No, Jessica, I don't think you are. The song ended, and couples began drifting back to their tables. Giovanni kept his hand on Jessica's waist, steering her through the crowd. They were almost back to table 3 when someone called out, Gio, I didn't expect to see you here. The man approaching was tall, broad-shouldered, with salt and pepper hair, and a scar that ran from his left eye to his jaw. He wore an expensive suit but moved like a boxer, all controlled violence barely contained. Giovanni's entire demeanor changed. The charming suitor disappeared, replaced by something harder, colder. Marco? Giovanni's voice was flat. I didn't realize you'd be attending. Last-minute invitation, business with the bride's father. Marco's eyes slid to Jessica, and she felt herself being assessed like merchandise. Who's your friend? This is Jessica Reed. Jessica Marco Martinelli. Martinelli. The name sent a chill down Jessica's spine. Even she, disconnected from Chicago's underworld as she was, knew that name. The Martinelli family owned half the South Side, controlled unions and construction, and God knew what else. Pleasure, Marco said, taking her hand and kissing it much less smoothly than Giovanni had kissed her mother's. Gio, we need to talk. Tomorrow, the usual place. I'll check my schedule. It wasn't a request. Marco's smile didn't reach his eyes. Enjoy the wedding. He walked away, and Jessica felt Giovanni's hand tighten on her waist. Giovanni. Her voice was carefully controlled. What kind of import/export are we talking about? The kind that pays very well. That's not an answer. It's the only answer you're getting tonight. Giovanni steered her back to the table, but the easy charm from before had evaporated. He seemed distracted now, his eyes following Marco Martinelli as the man made his way to a table in the back corner. Jessica's father was watching them both with renewed interest. Dinner was served, prime rib and salmon, the kind of expensive dual entree setup that had probably cost more per plate than Jessica spent on groceries in a week. She picked at her food while Giovanni made small talk with her parents, effortlessly charming her mother while parrying her father's increasingly pointed questions. "So this charity event where you met," her father said. "Which one was it?" "The Children's Hospital Gala," Jessica said quickly. "In November." "I didn't know your firm worked with the Children's Hospital." "We don't. I bought a ticket myself." The lies were coming easier now, each one building on the last. "I wanted to support the cause." Giovanni's hand found hers under the table, squeezing gently. Support or warning, she couldn't tell. The evening wore on. Toasts were made, cake was cut, the bouquet was tossed and caught by a squealing bridesmaid. Through it all, Giovanni played his part perfectly. Attentive but not clingy, charming but not obsequious. He was good at this, Jessica realized. Too good. Around 10 o'clock, he leaned close. "I should go. Early morning tomorrow." "The meeting with Marco?" "Among other things." Giovanni stood, pulling her up with him. "Walk me out?" They made their excuses to her parents, her mother extracting a promise that Jessica would bring Giovanni to Sunday dinner next week, and headed for the exit. The hotel lobby was quieter, populated by late-night travelers and hotel staff. Outside, Michigan Avenue glittered with city lights. A sleek black car sat at the curb, a driver standing beside it. "This is you?" Jessica gestured to the car. "This is me." "Of course it is." She wrapped her arms around herself, the October wind cutting through her thin dress. "So, Sunday dinner. My mother's house. I'll pick you up at 5. Giovanni shrugged off his jacket and draped it over her shoulders. It smelled like him, expensive cologne and something else, something darker. "Give me your phone." "Why?" "So I can put my number in it, unless you plan to communicate via carrier pigeon." Jessica handed over her phone, watching as he typed quickly. A moment later, his own phone buzzed. "Now I have yours too." He smiled. "Try not to overthink this, Jessica. It's just a few dinners, a few appearances. Nothing you can't handle." "You don't know what I can handle." "I think you'd be surprised what I know." Giovanni stepped closer, and Jessica's breath caught. For a moment, she thought he was going to kiss her, and she didn't know if she wanted him to or not. Instead, he brushed a strand of hair from her face, his fingers lingering on her cheek. "Go home to your daughter. Kiss her goodnight. And try not to worry so much about what everyone else thinks." His voice was soft, almost gentle. "You're stronger than you give yourself credit for." Then he was in the car and the driver was pulling away from the curb, and Jessica was standing alone on Michigan Avenue in a borrowed jacket that probably cost more than her rent. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. "You did well tonight. I'll see you Sunday." Jessica looked up at the glittering hotel, at the windows where her family was still celebrating, still judging, still finding her wanting. Then she looked down at her phone again. What had she just agreed to? The cab ride home took 20 minutes, long enough for the adrenaline to wear off and reality to sink in. She'd agreed to fake date a man she'd just met, a man with ties to organized crime, if Marco Martinelli's appearance was any indication. A man whose import/export business was probably a euphemism for something much more dangerous. What the hell was she thinking? Mrs. Chen answered the door before Jessica could get her key out. "She's been asleep for 2 hours. No problems." "Thank you so much." Jessica paid her and tipped extra, guilt money for staying out longer than she'd planned. Lily's room was an explosion of stuffed animals and dinosaur posters. Her daughter slept sprawled across her twin bed, one arm hanging off the side, her favorite blanket kicked to the floor. Jessica carefully tucked it back around her, pressing a kiss to her forehead. This was real. This small person, this responsibility, this love that was so fierce it sometimes felt like drowning. Everything else, the wedding, Giovanni, the lies she'd told tonight, that was the fantasy. But oh, what a fantasy it had been. For a few hours, she'd been someone else, someone worthy of admiration instead of pity, someone whose life choices weren't constantly questioned and found lacking. Her phone buzzed again. Another text from Giovanni. Sweet dreams, Jessica. She should delete his number. End this before it started. Be the responsible adult, the good mother, the person who made sensible choices. Instead, she typed back, you too. Then she added, and thank you for tonight. His response came quickly. The pleasure was mine. Tomorrow I'll send you my schedule for the next few weeks. We should coordinate. This is really happening? Unless you've changed your mind. Jessica looked at her sleeping daughter, at the stack of unpaid bills on her dresser, at the photo of her and Derek that she still hadn't taken down because explaining its absence to Lily seemed harder than leaving it up. I haven't changed my mind, she typed. Good. Sleep well, Jessica Reed. Our adventure is just beginning. Jessica set her phone on the nightstand and climbed into bed, still wearing her dress, still smelling like the wedding, still feeling the phantom warmth of Giovanni's hand on her waist. Tomorrow she'd wake up and be herself again, the struggling single mother, the paralegal drowning in student loans, the woman who microwaved dinner and fell asleep during movie nights with her daughter. But tonight, just for tonight, she let herself imagine something different, something dangerous, something that felt almost like hope. Sunday arrived with the inevitability of a reckoning. Jessica stood in front of her closet at 4:30, having already changed clothes 3 times. The first outfit was too casual, jeans and a sweater that screamed, I gave up. The second was too formal, a pencil skirt and blouse that made her look like she was trying too hard. Now she was staring at option 3, a simple navy dress that hit just above the knee, professional but not stuffy, paired with low heels she could actually walk in. Mommy, you look pretty. Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching her stuffed triceratops. Where are you going? Jessica's stomach clenched. She'd been dreading this conversation all week. Grandma's house for dinner, sweetie. Remember? I told you Mrs. Chen was going to make you mac and cheese tonight. Lily's face fell. Can't I come? Not tonight. It's just going to be grown-up talk. Boring stuff. Jessica knelt down to her daughter's level. But next weekend, we'll go to the zoo. Just you and me. Deal? Deal. Lily wrapped her arms around Jessica's neck. I love you, Mommy. I love you too, baby. More than anything. The intercom buzzed at exactly 5 o'clock. Giovanni Fioraldi, it seemed, was punctual. Miss Reed, there's a gentleman here to see you. The doorman's voice crackled through the speaker, slightly awed. He says he's expected? Send him up, please. Jessica took one last look in the mirror, smoothed her hair, and told herself this was fine. Just dinner, just maintaining the charade for a few more hours. Nothing she couldn't handle. The knock on the door came 60 seconds later. She took a breath and opened it. Giovanni stood in the hallway, looking like he'd stepped out of a magazine spread. Dark slacks, a crisp white shirt open at the collar, a leather jacket that probably cost more than her monthly salary. He held a bouquet of white roses in one hand and a small wrapped package in the other. Hi, Jessica managed. You look beautiful. His eyes traveled over her, appreciative but not leering. May I come in? She stepped aside, suddenly hyper-aware of her modest apartment, the scuffed hardwood floors, the secondhand furniture, the crayon drawings taped to the refrigerator. It was clean but small, a stark contrast to the wealth Giovanni clearly inhabited. If he noticed, he didn't show it. Instead, his attention went immediately to Lily, who was peeking around the corner with wide eyes. And you must be Lily. Giovanni crouched down to her level, his movements easy and natural. Your mother told me all about you. I brought you something. He extended the wrapped package. Lily looked at Jessica for permission, and at her nod, took it carefully. What do you say, Lily? Thank you. Lily's voice was small, shy. She unwrapped the gift with meticulous care, gasping when she saw what was inside. Mommy, look! It's the book about dinosaurs I wanted. Jessica's heart stuttered. It was indeed the book, an expensive illustrated guide to prehistoric creatures that Lily had been coveting at the bookstore for months, the one Jessica couldn't afford. How did you... You mentioned she liked dinosaurs. Giovanni stood, his expression carefully neutral. I made an educated guess. Can I look at it, Mommy? Please? Of course, baby. But we need to leave soon, okay? Lily scampered off to the couch, already absorbed in colorful illustrations of velociraptors and pterodactyls. Giovanni watched her go, something soft crossing his features before he turned back to Jessica. The flowers are for you. He handed her the roses. Though I realize bringing flowers to a woman I'm supposedly already dating might be backwards. They're beautiful. Jessica inhaled their scent, trying to ignore the flutter in her chest. You didn't have to do that. Or the book. I wanted to. Giovanni's dark eyes held hers. Are you ready for this? Are you asking if I'm ready to lie to my entire family over pot roast? Essentially, yes. Jessica set the roses on the counter. I've been practicing all week. I know your birthday, where you went to college, your favorite food. Jessica. Giovanni's hand caught her wrist, gentle but firm. Breathe. You're not taking a test. We're just two people who are dating. Keep it simple. Simple, right. She grabbed her purse, checked on Lily one more time, and kissed her daughter goodbye. Be good for Mrs. Chen, okay? Okay, Mommy. Bye, Mr. Giovanni. Goodbye, Lily. Enjoy your dinosaurs. The car waiting downstairs was the same sleek black sedan from the wedding. The driver, a thick-necked man who looked like he could bench press a refrigerator, opened the door without a word. Thank you, Marco. Giovanni waited for Jessica to slide in before following. My parents' house first, then to the Reeds. Wait, your parents' house? Giovanni settled into the leather seat beside her. I thought you should meet them. If we're going to sell this, consistency matters. My mother's been insistent. You told your family about me? Jessica's voice climbed an octave. I told them I met someone. My mother assumed the rest. She's been trying to marry me off since I turned 30. His mouth quirked. Apparently, I'm becoming an embarrassment. How old are you? 34. And before you ask, yes, I've dated. No, I've never been married. No children, no pets. I own a house in Lincoln Park and a condo in Milan. I like my coffee black, my whiskey neat, and I can't cook to save my life. He rattled off facts like items on a grocery list. Does that cover the basics? Jessica's head was spinning. We're going to your parents' house, right now. Just for coffee. 30 minutes, tops. My mother wants to meet the woman who supposedly captured my attention. We smile. We're charming. We leave. Giovanni pulled out his phone, checking something. Trust me, this is easier than explaining why I didn't introduce you. The car wound through Chicago traffic, heading toward the north side. Jessica watched the neighborhoods change, from her modest area to increasingly upscale blocks, until they pulled up in front of a massive Victorian house in Lincoln Park that looked like something from a historical registry. This is your parents' house? My father likes to make an impression. The front door opened before they reached it. A woman emerged, late 50s, elegant in tailored slacks and a silk blouse, dark hair swept into a perfect chignon. She looked like older money and careful breeding, but her smile was warm as she rushed down the steps. Giovanni, finally! She embraced him, then turned to Jessica with assessing but kind eyes. And you must be Jessica. I'm Lucia Fioraldi. Come in. It's freezing out here. The interior of the house was exactly what Jessica expected. Antique furniture, oil paintings, rooms that smelled like lemon polish and old money. Lucia led them to a sitting room where a man stood by the fireplace, tall and distinguished with silver hair and Giovanni's dark eyes. This is my husband, Salvatore. Lucia gestured between them. Sal, this is Jessica Reed. Salvatore's handshake was firm, his gaze penetrating. Miss Reed, my son tells us you work in law. I'm a paralegal at Morrison and Associates downtown. Jessica was acutely aware of how modest her career sounded in this room. Honest work. Salvatore's expression gave nothing away. How long have you known my son? Dad. Giovanni's voice carried a warning. We talked about this. I'm simply getting to know the woman my son is dating. Surely that's allowed. But Salvatore's tone suggested this was more interrogation than social call. Lucia intervened smoothly. Coffee, Jessica? Or perhaps tea? Coffee, please. Black. Like Giovanni. Lucia smiled. He gets that from his father. Me, I need cream and sugar or I can't drink the stuff. She poured from an ornate silver service, her movements practiced. Tell me about yourself, dear. Giovanni mentioned you have a daughter? And there it was, the question that usually preceded judgment. Yes. Lily, she's 6. Jessica kept her voice steady. She's in first grade, loves dinosaurs and Disney princesses. How wonderful. Lucia handed her a delicate china cup. Is her father in the picture? Mother. Giovanni's tone sharpened. It's okay. Jessica met Lucia's eyes directly. No, he's not. We've been divorced for over a year. He lives in Arizona with his girlfriend. The silence stretched for 3 beats too long. Then Lucia said, His loss, clearly. Any man who would walk away from his child is no man at all. Salvatore grunted agreement, and something in Jessica's chest loosened. Lily sounds delightful, Lucia continued. You must bring her to dinner sometime. I'd love to meet her. That's very kind of you. Nonsense. If Giovanni is serious about you, and he must be because he's never brought a woman home before, then your daughter is part of the package. Lucia shot her son a meaningful look. Family is everything, Jessica. We take care of our own. The words seemed innocent enough, but something in the way Salvatore nodded suggested layers of meaning Jessica couldn't quite grasp. They stayed for 25 minutes, coffee and polite conversation about Chicago weather, Jessica's work, Lily's school. Lucia was warm and welcoming. Salvatore remained reserved but not hostile. And Giovanni played his part perfectly, his hand finding Jessica's knee, his fingers lacing through hers, small touches that looked natural but sent electricity through her system. As they were leaving, Salvatore pulled Giovanni aside. Jessica couldn't hear what was said, but she saw Giovanni's jaw tighten, saw the brief flash of something, anger, frustration, before he nodded. Back in the car, she asked, What was that about? Family business, nothing that concerns you. Giovanni's tone was clipped. If we're supposedly dating, shouldn't I… Jessica. He turned to face her, his expression serious. There are parts of my life that you don't need to know about. For your own safety, it's better if you don't ask questions you don't want answered. The words sent a chill through her. Are you in danger? I'm always in danger. It's the nature of my work. Giovanni's hand found hers. But you're not. As long as you're with me, you're protected. I promise you that. That's not reassuring. It's the truth, which is more than most people in my position would give you. They drove the rest of the way to her parents' house in silence. Jessica's mind raced with questions she didn't dare ask. What kind of import/export business required promises of protection? What had Marco Martinelli really wanted at the wedding? And what the hell had she gotten herself into? Her childhood home looked exactly the same as it had for 30 years. A brick colonial in Oak Park, meticulously maintained lawn, her mother's prized rose bushes wrapped for winter. Cars lined the driveway, her parents' Lexus, Uncle Robert's Mercedes, Aunt Catherine's Range Rover. Big family dinner? Giovanni observed. My mother likes an audience. Jessica's hands were shaking. Last chance to back out. Not a chance. Giovanni exited the car, came around to open her door. Remember, we're in love. Or at least, we're falling there. Keep it simple. Her mother opened the door before they could knock, her face bright with excitement. Jessica and Giovanni, how wonderful to see you again. Come in. Everyone's dying to meet you properly. The dining room was packed. Her parents, Uncle Robert and Aunt Catherine, her cousin Melissa with her flavor-of-the-month boyfriend, and Jessica's stomach dropped, Aunt Patricia, the family's most accomplished gossip. Everyone, this is Giovanni Fioraldi, her mother announced, Jessica's boyfriend. The scrutiny was immediate and intense. Jessica felt Giovanni's hand settle on the small of her back, warm and steady. Mr. and Mrs. Reed, thank you for having me. Giovanni's charm was effortless. I brought wine, a Barolo from my family's vineyard in Piedmont. Her father's eyebrows rose. Your family owns a vineyard? 3, actually. My grandfather started the business. I've been expanding it into American markets. Giovanni handed over the bottle, and Jessica saw her father's expression shift to grudging respect as he examined the label. They were ushered to the table. Jessica beside Giovanni, directly across from Aunt Patricia's laser focus. So, Giovanni, Patricia began before they'd even sat down. Import/export, I heard? What exactly does that entail? Wine primarily, olive oil, specialty foods, artisanal products. I work with family connections in Italy to bring quality goods to restaurants and retailers here. The answer was smooth, practiced, though I'm expanding into other areas, real estate, some tech investments. Sounds profitable. Uncle Robert leaned forward. What's your take on the current market volatility? And Giovanni was off, engaging in economic discussion that was clearly over Jessica's head but impressed her uncle. She watched, amazed, as he navigated her family's questions with the ease of someone who'd done this 1,000 times. Her mother served pot roast and potatoes, her signature meal. The conversation flowed, work, politics, the upcoming holidays. Giovanni was charming without being obsequious, knowledgeable without being pretentious. He asked her father about his legal career, complimented her mother's cooking, even managed to find common ground with Melissa's boyfriend over baseball. And how did you two really meet? Aunt Patricia asked, her eyes sharp. The charity gala story seems rather convenient. Jessica's pulse spiked, but Giovanni's hand found her knee under the table. Actually, he said smoothly, we met when Jessica spilled coffee on me at a Starbucks on Madison Avenue. 3 months ago, Tuesday morning, approximately 8:50. Jessica's mind raced. She did get coffee on Madison every Tuesday before work. The detail was specific enough to be believable. I was rushing to a meeting, Giovanni continued, not watching where I was going. Jessica was juggling her briefcase, her phone, and a venti latte. We collided. She was mortified, apologizing profusely, insisting on paying for my dry cleaning. He smiled at Jessica, and something in his expression made her breath catch. I asked for her number instead. How romantic, her mother sighed. And the charity gala, Patricia pressed, was our third date. Jessica found her voice, building on his lie. Giovanni mentioned he had tickets, and I said I'd been planning to go anyway. We decided to make an evening of it. Whirlwind romance, Patricia observed. When you know, you know. Giovanni's thumb traced circles on Jessica's knee, the touch setting her nerves on fire. Dinner progressed. Dessert, her mother's famous apple pie, was served with coffee. The men retired to her father's study for brandy and cigars, which left Jessica alone with the women. Immediately, the questioning intensified. He's gorgeous, Melissa hissed the moment the men were out of earshot. Where did you really find him? I told you. The coffee story's cute, but come on, Jess. Men who look like that don't date single mothers with baggage. Melissa's tone wasn't cruel, just matter of fact. What's the real story? There is no other story. Jessica kept her voice level. We met, we connected, we started dating. It's not complicated. Everything about that man is complicated. Aunt Catherine set down her coffee cup. I had Robert look into him. Giovanni Fioraldi, 34, owns property in Lincoln Park in Milan, runs a legitimate import business, but there are gaps in his history. Years where there's no record of what he was doing. Ice flooded Jessica's veins. You investigated him? We're protecting you, dear. Her mother's hand covered hers. After Derek, we just want to make sure what? That I'm not being fooled again? That I'm capable of making my own decisions? Jessica pulled her hand away. I'm 32 years old with a daughter to raise. I think I can handle my own relationships. We're just concerned, Aunt Patricia said. He's very charming, very smooth. Men like that often have secrets. Everyone has secrets. Jessica stood. Excuse me, I need some air. She escaped to the back porch, the October night biting through her dress. The yard was dark, illuminated only by the kitchen light spilling through the windows. They mean well. Jessica spun to find Giovanni leaning against the porch railing, a glass of brandy in his hand. How long have you been out here? Long enough to hear your aunt's concerns. He took a sip. She's not wrong. I do have secrets. Are you going to tell me what they are? No? Why not? Because you're better off not knowing. Giovanni set down his glass, moved closer. Jessica, I like you. More than I expected to, if I'm honest. But my world is dangerous. The less you know, the safer you are. That's not fair. If I'm going to pretend to be your girlfriend, then You need to trust that I'm protecting you by keeping you at a distance from certain aspects of my life. His hands framed her face, forcing her to meet his eyes. Can you do that? Jessica wanted to say no, wanted to demand the truth, to protect herself and Lily from whatever darkness Giovanni inhabited. But standing there in her parents' backyard with his hands warm against her skin and his eyes searching hers, she found herself nodding. Good. Giovanni's thumb brushed her cheek. Now, shall we go back inside before your family decides I've kidnapped you? The rest of the evening passed in a blur. More questions, more performance, more careful lies building on lies. By the time they left at 9:30, Jessica's face hurt from smiling. In the car, she slumped against the seat. That was exhausting. You did well. Giovanni loosened his tie. Your aunt's investigation was unexpected, but not surprising. We'll need to be more careful. More careful how? Consistency. Details that align. I'll have my people create a more thorough backstory. Credit card receipts from that Starbucks, perhaps. A paper trail that holds up to scrutiny. Your people. Jessica turned to look at him. Who are your people, Giovanni? Employees, associates, people I pay to handle logistics. That's not an answer. It's the answer you're getting. But his tone wasn't harsh. If anything, he sounded tired. Thank you for tonight. I know it wasn't easy. Will it get easier? Lying usually does. The car pulled up in front of her building. Giovanni walked her to the door, his hand on the small of her back. Same time next Sunday? Jessica asked. Actually, I was thinking Thursday. There's a gallery opening in River North, black tie. Several of my business associates will be there. It would be good for us to be seen together. I don't have anything to wear to a black tie gallery opening. Giovanni pulled out his wallet, extracted a black credit card. Buy something, whatever you want. Jessica stared at the card like it was a snake. I can't. You can, and you will. Consider it part of the arrangement. I need you looking the part, and I'm not going to have you stressed about the cost. He pressed the card into her hand. Please, Jessica, let me do this. This feels wrong. This entire situation is wrong, but we're doing it anyway. His smile was crooked, almost sad. Buy yourself a dress. Get your hair done. Enjoy it. Before she could respond, he leaned in and pressed a kiss to her forehead. Brief, warm, unexpectedly tender. Good night, Jessica Reed. Then he was gone, back in the car, leaving Jessica standing in her building's lobby with a credit card that probably had no limit and a head full of questions she couldn't answer. Upstairs, Mrs. Chen reported that Lily had been perfect, had eaten all her dinner and was asleep by 8. Jessica paid her, locked the door, and went to check on her daughter. Lily was sprawled across her bed, the dinosaur book clutched to her chest, even in sleep. Jessica carefully extracted it, marked the page with a bookmark, and set it on the nightstand. This was real, this small person, this responsibility. Everything else, Giovanni, the lies, the dangerous game she was playing, that was the fantasy. But fantasies had a way of becoming nightmares. Her phone buzzed. A text from Giovanni. Thank you for tonight, you were perfect. Another message followed. The card has a $10,000 limit. Don't be afraid to use it. $10,000. For a dress. For an evening pretending to be someone she wasn't. Jessica looked at her daughter, sleeping peacefully, unaware that her mother had just stepped into a world she didn't understand with a man she barely knew. This is for her, Jessica told herself. For both of us. A few weeks of this, and my family will stop looking at me like I'm broken. A few weeks, and then it's over. But as she climbed into bed, Giovanni's jacket still in her closet, smelling like expensive cologne and secrets, Jessica couldn't shake the feeling that she'd just crossed a line she wouldn't be able to uncross. The arrangement was simple. The consequences, she was beginning to suspect, would be anything but. 3 days later, Jessica stood in the dressing room of a boutique on Oak Street, the kind of place she'd never have entered without Giovanni's credit card burning a hole in her purse. The sales associate, a reed-thin woman named Clarissa, had pulled a dozen dresses, each more expensive than the last. This one, Clarissa declared, holding up a floor-length gown in deep emerald silk. With your coloring, it'll be stunning. Jessica tried it on, and even she had to admit, it was stunning. The dress hugged her curves, the color making her skin glow. She looked like someone who belonged at a gallery opening, Someone who dated men like Giovanni Fioraldi. Someone she wasn't. I'll take it, she heard herself say. The total came to $4,800 for one dress. Jessica's hand shook as she handed over Giovanni's card, half expecting it to be declined, for this entire fantasy to come crashing down. It went through without a hitch. Excellent choice, Ms. Reed, Clarissa purred. Your gentleman friend has exquisite taste in women. Back in her office that afternoon, Jessica tried to focus on work, depositions to file, correspondence to draft, but her mind kept drifting. To the dress hanging in her closet, to Thursday's gallery opening, to the way Giovanni had kissed her forehead, that brief moment of tenderness that had felt more real than anything else. Jessica, got a minute? Her boss, Linda Morrison, stood in the doorway. A sharp woman in her 50s, Linda had built the firm from nothing and had no patience for nonsense. Of course. Jessica minimized her screen. Linda closed the door. I'm hearing rumors. About? About you dating Giovanni Fioraldi. Linda's expression was unreadable. Is it true? Jessica's stomach dropped. How did you... Your Aunt Catherine called, said she was doing due diligence, wanted to know if you'd mentioned him at work. Linda sat down. I told her attorney-client privilege extended to employee gossip, but Jessica, be careful. What do you mean? I mean, Giovanni Fioraldi's name has come across my desk before, in contexts that have nothing to do with wine importation. Linda's gaze was steady. I can't say more than that, but if you're involved with him, watch yourself. The warning settled over Jessica like a shroud. Noted. Thursday arrived too quickly. Giovanni picked her up at 7, this time driving himself in a sleek Maserati that purred like a predator. His eyes widened when he saw her in the emerald dress. You're breathtaking, he said simply. The dress does most of the work. No, it doesn't. But Giovanni handed her a black velvet box. But this might help. Inside was a diamond necklace that probably cost more than her car. I can't. You can. You will. It's borrowed, not a gift, so don't argue. He took it from the box, fastened it around her neck. His fingers brushed her skin, and Jessica shivered. There. Perfect. The gallery was in River North, a converted warehouse space filled with abstract art and beautiful people. Giovanni kept his hand on her waist as they moved through the crowd, introducing her to a blur of names and faces. Then she saw Marco Martinelli. He was holding court near a sculpture that looked like twisted metal, surrounded by men in expensive suits. His eyes found Giovanni, then slid to Jessica, and something in his expression made her skin crawl. Gio. Marco approached, the crowd parting. Twice in 1 week. People will talk. Let them. Giovanni's hand tightened on Jessica's waist. And you brought your lovely girlfriend. Marco's smile didn't reach his eyes. Jessica Reed, was it? Single mother, works as a paralegal, lives in a modest apartment in Wicker Park. Ice flooded Jessica's veins. He'd been checking on her. Is there a point to this recitation, Marco? Giovanni's voice was dangerously soft. Just making conversation. Getting to know the woman who's captured your attention. Marco's gaze raked over Jessica. Though I have to wonder, what does someone like her offer someone like you? Careful. The single word carried enough menace to make Marco step back. No offense intended, but Marco's smirk suggested otherwise. Enjoy the evening. We'll talk soon, Gio, about business. He walked away, leaving Jessica shaking. I want to leave, she whispered. Not yet. If we leave now, he wins. Giovanni pulled her closer. Dance with me. Show him you're not afraid. But I am afraid. I know, but he doesn't need to. Giovanni led her to where other couples were swaying to music from a string quartet. Trust me, Jessica, I won't let anything happen to you. They danced, and Jessica tried to ignore the eyes on them, the whispered conversations, the sense that she'd stepped into something far more dangerous than a simple fake relationship. When they finally left an hour later, Jessica's hands were still trembling. Who is Marco Martinelli really? She demanded once they were in the car. Someone you need to stay away from. That's not an answer. Giovanni's jaw tightened. He's a man who controls significant portions of this city's underground economy. Gambling, protection, union manipulation. If it's illegal and profitable, Marco has his fingers in it. And you work with him. I exist in his world. There's a difference. Is there? Jessica turned in her seat. Tell me the truth, Giovanni. What are you really involved in? For a long moment, he said nothing. Then, my family's business is legitimate. The vineyards, the importation, that's all real. But in Italy, in certain circles, lines between legal and illegal blur. My grandfather made deals with men like Marco's grandfather, deals that have bound our families together for generations. So you're what? Mob adjacent? I'm a man trying to build something clean from dirty foundations. But that means maintaining relationships with people like Marco, attending the right events, being seen with the right people. Giovanni's hand found hers. It also means keeping certain parts of my life separate, which is why I need someone like you. Someone respectable. Someone real. His grip tightened. You ground me, Jessica. Make me look stable, committed. It helps with business, yes, but it's more than that. What is it then? Giovanni pulled the car over suddenly, parking on a quiet street. He turned to face her fully, his expression raw. It's the way you look at me like I'm a person, not a name or a business opportunity. It's watching you with your daughter, seeing real love instead of strategic alliances. It's remembering what it feels like to want something that isn't about power or money or survival. Jessica's breath caught. Giovanni, I know this started as an arrangement, a transaction, but I need you to know. He stopped, seemed to struggle with words. I need you to know that for me, it's becoming something else. Before Jessica could process that confession, headlights flooded the car. A black SUV pulled up beside them, the window rolling down. Marco Martinelli smiled from the passenger seat. Gio, we need to talk, now. I'm busy. It wasn't a request. Marco's eyes slid to Jessica. Perhaps your lady friend should go home. This is business. Giovanni's expression turned to stone. He looked at Jessica. I'll have someone take you home. What? No. Jessica. His hand cupped her face. Please, trust me. A second car appeared, the black sedan with Giovanni's driver. He must have been following them. Marco will escort you home, Giovanni said quietly. I'll call you when I'm done. This isn't... Please. The single word held enough desperation that Jessica found herself nodding. She was transferred to the sedan in a blur, Marco's men watching with predatory interest. As they drove away, she looked back to see Giovanni getting into the SUV with Marco, his shoulders tense. This was wrong. All of it. She should never have agreed to this arrangement, never let herself get pulled into Giovanni's dangerous world. But as the city lights blurred past and fear settled into her bones, Jessica realized something terrifying. She was already in too deep to walk away. The driver said nothing during the 20-minute ride back to Jessica's apartment. His silence was oppressive, filling the car with unspoken warnings. When they pulled up to her building, he finally spoke. Mr. Fioraldi will contact you when it's safe. Safe? Jessica's voice cracked. What does that mean? But the driver just stared straight ahead, waiting for her to exit. Jessica climbed out on shaking legs, watched the sedan disappear into traffic, and stood on the sidewalk feeling like her entire world had just tilted sideways. Mrs. Chen opened the door before Jessica could get her key out. You're home early. Everything okay? Fine. Just tired. The lie tasted bitter. How was Lily? Perfect angel, as always. She's asleep. Mrs. Chen studied Jessica's face. You sure you're okay? You look pale. I'm fine. Really, thank you for staying late. After Mrs. Chen left, Jessica locked the door, the deadbolt, the chain, everything, and leaned against it, her heart pounding. She should call someone. Her parents. Linda. The police, maybe. Except what would she even say? My fake boyfriend, who might be connected to organized crime, just got pulled into a meeting with a known mobster, and I'm terrified. She checked on Lily, found her daughter sleeping peacefully with the dinosaur book on her nightstand, and felt something crack inside her chest. What had she done? What had she exposed her daughter to? Her phone rang at 11:30, Giovanni's name on the screen. "Are you okay?" Jessica answered without preamble. "I'm fine." His voice sounded tired. "Are you home?" "Yes, your driver made sure of it." Jessica paced her small living room. "What happened? What did Marco want?" "It's complicated." "That's what you always say." Her voice rose, and she forced it back down, conscious of Lily sleeping. "I deserve to know what I've gotten myself into." A long pause. Then, "Can I come over? This isn't a conversation for the phone." Jessica glanced at the clock. Nearly midnight. "It's late." "I know, but I need to see you. Need to know you're okay." Something in his voice made her breath catch. "Please, Jessica." She gave him the address he already knew and spent the next 15 minutes straightening her apartment with nervous energy. When the knock came, soft and careful, she jumped anyway. Giovanni stood in the hallway looking disheveled, his tie loosened, his jacket gone, dark circles under his eyes. But he was intact. Whole. "Hi," he said quietly. Jessica pulled him inside, locked the door behind him. "Tell me everything." He moved to her small couch, sat heavily. "Marco's having problems with the Russian syndicate. They're trying to muscle into his territory. Gambling operations on the south side, some protection rackets in Pilsen. He wants me to facilitate a meeting." "Why you?" "Because I'm neutral. The Russians know my family's name, respect it. They'll sit down with me when they won't with Marco." Giovanni rubbed his face. "It's supposed to be a simple negotiation. Everyone walks away with something, territories are respected, business continues." "But you don't think it'll be simple?" "The Russians aren't known for respecting boundaries, and Marco—" He stopped. "Marco's getting desperate. Desperate men make stupid decisions." Jessica sat beside him. "And where do I fit into this?" "You don't. That's the point." Giovanni turned to face her. "I need you to stay as far from this as possible. No more gallery openings, no more public events until this is resolved." "So our arrangement is over?" "No, just paused for your safety." His hand found hers. "Marco made comments tonight. About you, about Lily. Nothing explicit, but the implication was clear. He knows you matter to me, which makes you leverage." Fear spiked through Jessica's chest. "He threatened my daughter?" "Not directly, but men like Marco don't need to be direct. The suggestion is enough." Giovanni's grip tightened. "I won't let anything happen to either of you. I have people watching your building, your daughter's school. You're protected." "Protected?" Jessica laughed, sharp and brittle. 2 weeks ago I was worried about making rent. Now I need armed guards? I know this is insane, and I'm sorry. If I'd known Marco would—" Giovanni stopped himself. "I should have been more careful. Should have kept you separate from all of this." "Maybe you should have." Jessica pulled her hand away. "Maybe this whole thing was a mistake from the start." "Was it?" Giovanni's dark eyes searched hers. "Because from where I'm sitting, the only mistake was thinking I could keep this purely transactional." The air between them shifted, charged with something Jessica didn't want to name. "You said it was becoming something else," she whispered. "In the car." "What did you mean?" "I meant that when I see you, I forget about business and territories and family obligations. I meant that your daughter's laugh is the best sound I've heard in years. I meant that I'm tired of pretending this isn't real for me." Giovanni moved closer, his hand cupping her face. "I meant that I'm falling for you, Jessica Reed, and I have no idea what to do about it." Jessica's breath stuttered. "You barely know me." "I know you're stronger than you think. I know you love your daughter more than anything. I know you're terrified right now, but you're still here, still fighting." His thumb brushed her cheek. "I know that when I'm with you, I feel like I could be someone better than what my family made me." "Giovanni, I'm not asking for anything. I know this situation is impossible, but I needed you to know the truth." He started to pull away, but Jessica caught his wrist. "Wait." She didn't know what she was doing, didn't know if this was real or adrenaline or desperation, but she leaned in and kissed him, soft at first, testing, then deeper when his arms came around her. Giovanni kissed like he did everything else, with intensity and skill and a hunger that took her breath away. His hands tangled in her hair, pulling her closer, and Jessica let herself fall into it, into him, into the fantasy that this could somehow work. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Giovanni rested his forehead against hers. "That complicated things," he murmured. "Everything about this is already complicated." "Fair point." He kissed her again, softer this time. "I should go. It's late, and if I stay, then stay." The words surprised her, but Jessica didn't take them back. "Just for a while. I don't want to be alone right now." So Giovanni stayed. They moved to the couch, and he pulled her against his chest, his arms wrapped around her like a shield. Jessica let herself relax into his warmth, listening to his heartbeat, trying not to think about tomorrow or Marco Martinelli, or the fact that she'd just kissed a man who might be the most dangerous thing that had ever happened to her. She must have dozed off, because when she woke, pale morning light was streaming through the windows, and Lily was standing in the doorway in her dinosaur pajamas, staring at Giovanni with wide eyes. "Mommy?" Her daughter's voice was small, uncertain. "Who's that?" Jessica sat up quickly, disoriented. Giovanni was already awake, carefully extracting himself from their tangle. "Good morning, Lily." He kept his voice gentle, non-threatening. "I'm Giovanni. We met when I brought you the dinosaur book, remember?" Lily nodded slowly. "Are you Mommy's boyfriend?" Jessica opened her mouth, but Giovanni beat her to it. "I'm your mom's friend. A very good friend." He glanced at Jessica. "Is it okay if I make breakfast? I promise I'm terrible at it, but I can manage scrambled eggs." "I like scrambled eggs," Lily said cautiously. "Then scrambled eggs it is." Giovanni stood, rolling his shoulders. His shirt was wrinkled, his hair mussed, and he looked completely out of place in her tiny kitchen. But he moved with easy confidence, finding the eggs, the pan, the spatula. Jessica joined him, lowering her voice. "You don't have to—" "I want to." His hand brushed hers. "Besides, I meant what I said. I'm terrible at cooking. You might want to supervise." He wasn't lying. The eggs came out slightly rubbery, the toast burned on one side. But Lily ate every bite, chattering about school and her upcoming field trip to the Nature Museum, and Giovanni listened like it was the most fascinating thing he'd ever heard. "We're studying fossils," Lily explained seriously. "Did you know that birds are actually dinosaurs? They evolved from theropods like velociraptors." "I did not know that." Giovanni's expression was solemn. "That's remarkable." "It's very cool. Mrs. Patterson says I know more about dinosaurs than most college students." "I believe it." Giovanni smiled, and Jessica felt something shift in her chest, something terrifying and wonderful. This wasn't part of the arrangement. This easy domesticity, this warmth, the way Lily was already looking at Giovanni with trust instead of suspicion. After breakfast, Giovanni helped clean up. Badly, but he helped. And then checked his watch. "I should go. I have a meeting at 9. He crouched down to Lily's level. "It was very nice having breakfast with you, Lily. Thank you for sharing your dinosaur knowledge." "You can come back," Lily said. "If you want. Mommy doesn't have many friends." Jessica's face flushed, but Giovanni just smiled. "I'd like that very much." At the door, he pulled Jessica aside. "I meant what I said last night, about keeping you safe. My people will be watching, but you need to be careful too. No deviations from routine, no talking to strangers, and if you see anything suspicious, I'll call you immediately." "Good." He kissed her forehead, then her mouth, quick and sweet. "I'll text you later." After he left, Jessica leaned against the closed door, her mind reeling. Lily appeared beside her, tugging on her sleeve. "I like him, Mommy. He's nice." "Yeah, baby, he is." "Is he going to be my new daddy?" Jessica's heart clenched. "It's complicated, sweetheart. Giovanni and I are still figuring things out." "Okay." Lily seemed satisfied with that answer. "Can we watch cartoons now?" The weekend passed in strange normalcy. Jessica took Lily to soccer practice, did laundry, meal prepped for the week, but she was hyper-aware of the black sedan parked down the street, the same two men in suits who seemed to be everywhere she went. Giovanni's protection, presumably. He texted throughout the weekend, brief check-ins, nothing substantial. How are you? Everything okay? Sleep well. On Sunday afternoon, her mother called. Jessica, I haven't heard from you all week. Is everything all right with you and Giovanni? Everything's fine, Mom. Just busy. Well, we're having Sunday dinner again this week. Can you bring him? Jessica thought about Marco Martinelli, about Giovanni's warning to stay out of sight. Actually, Giovanni's out of town on business. It'll just be me and Lily. Oh. Her mother's disappointment was palpable. That's too bad. Your father was hoping to talk to him about investment opportunities. Of course he was. Maybe next week. All right, dear. See you at 6. Dinner at her parents' house was mercifully uneventful. Lily charmed everyone with her dinosaur facts. Jessica's father talked about his golf game, and nobody asked too many questions about Giovanni's absence. It was Aunt Patricia who finally brought it up over dessert. So where did you say Giovanni was this week? Milan. Family business with the vineyards. The lie came easily now. That's convenient. Patricia's eyes narrowed. You know, I have a friend whose son works in commercial real estate. He says there's been talk about Giovanni Fioraldi purchasing property in some questionable neighborhoods. Patricia, Jessica's mother warned. I'm just saying, if my niece is dating someone with organized crime connections, he doesn't have organized crime connections. Jessica kept her voice level, even as her heart raced. He's a legitimate businessman who happens to be Italian, which apparently means he must be in the mob according to your friend's son's gossip. There's no need to get defensive. There's every need when you're implying the man I'm dating is a criminal. The table went silent. Jessica's father cleared his throat. Patricia, that's enough. Jessica is an adult. If she says Giovanni is legitimate, we trust her judgment. But the damage was done. Jessica could see the doubt in her mother's eyes, the concern in her father's expression. The fairy tale was cracking. She left early, claiming Lily was tired, and drove home with her mind churning. How long could she maintain this fiction? How long before her family's suspicions or Marco's threats or her own growing feelings made the whole thing collapse? Monday morning brought a new complication. Jessica was at her desk, reviewing a deposition, when Linda called her into the office. Close the door. Jessica's stomach dropped. Is something wrong? That depends. Linda folded her hands on her desk. Jessica, I like you. You're good at your job, reliable, smart, which is why I'm giving you this warning instead of just firing you. Firing me? For what? For bringing attention to this firm that we don't want. 3 times in the past week, I've had inquiries about you. From people who don't make innocent inquiries. Linda's expression was grim. Men asking about your schedule, your responsibilities, whether you have access to client files. Horror washed over Jessica. I would never. I know you wouldn't, but the fact that people are asking means you're connected to something we want no part of. Linda leaned forward. I'm guessing this has to do with Giovanni Fioraldi. Am I right? Jessica nodded mutely. Then you need to end it. Whatever you have with him, it's not worth your career. It's certainly not worth putting this firm at risk. I can't just. You can, and you will, because if these inquiries continue, I'll have no choice but to let you go. I'm sorry, Jessica, but I have 12 other employees to protect, not to mention our clients and our reputation. Linda's voice softened slightly. I know you've been through hell with your divorce, but this man, whatever he's offering you, it's not worth it. Jessica left the office feeling like the walls were closing in. At her desk, she pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted Giovanni. We need to talk, tonight. His response came immediately. My place. I'll send a car at 7. Bring Lily if you need to. She spent the rest of the day in a fog, barely able to concentrate. When 7 o'clock came, she and Lily were waiting in the lobby when the black sedan pulled up. Giovanni's house in Lincoln Park was a 3-story brownstone that probably cost more than Jessica would make in a lifetime. He answered the door himself, his expression concerned. What happened? Not in front of Lily. Jessica gestured to her daughter, who was staring around the entryway with wide eyes. Right, of course. Giovanni crouched down. Lily, would you like to see my library? I have some books about dinosaurs that might interest you. You have a library? Lily's eyes went even wider. I do. Come on, I'll show you. The library was a converted second bedroom, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves filled with leather-bound volumes. Giovanni pulled down several books on paleontology and set Lily up in a leather armchair big enough to swallow her. Take your time. Your mom and I will be right in the next room. Back in the living room, all hardwood floors and expensive furniture, Jessica finally let herself break. They're asking about me at my firm. Men looking into my schedule, my access to files. Linda says if it doesn't stop, she'll fire me. Giovanni's expression went dark. Marco, why would he do this? Because he's testing me, seeing how far he can push before I push back. Giovanni paced the room like a caged animal. I'll handle it. How? By what? Threatening my boss? That'll make everything better. By making it clear that you're off limits, that there are lines even Marco doesn't cross. He stopped pacing, ran a hand through his hair. I should have anticipated this. Should have protected you better. You can't protect me from my own choices. Jessica sank onto the couch. Maybe Linda's right. Maybe we should just end this before it gets worse. Is that what you want? I don't know what I want anymore. The words burst out of her. 2 weeks ago, I had a plan. Keep my head down, raise my daughter, survive. It wasn't exciting, but it was safe. Now I'm being followed, my job's at risk, and I'm falling for a man who… She stopped herself. Who what? Giovanni sat beside her, his voice gentle. Who lives in a world I don't understand. Who has enemies that threaten my family. Who… Jessica looked at him, really looked at him. Who makes me feel things I haven't felt in years, and it terrifies me. Giovanni's hand found hers. I know, it terrifies me too. So what do? We end the arrangement, publicly. You tell your family we broke up, I tell my associates the same. We stop being seen together. His grip tightened. But privately? Privately what? Privately, I'd like to keep seeing you, if you'll let me. No more public events, no more performances. Just us, figuring out if this is real. Jessica wanted to say no, should say no. Every logical part of her brain screamed that this was a terrible idea, but she thought about Saturday morning, Giovanni burning toast in her kitchen while Lily talked about dinosaurs. She thought about the way he looked at her like she was something precious. She thought about how, for the first time since Derek left, she felt like someone saw her, really saw her, and chose her anyway. Okay, she whispered. Okay? We end it publicly, but privately. Jessica leaned in, kissed him softly. Privately, we see where this goes. Giovanni pulled her close, his arms wrapping around her like he could shield her from everything outside this moment. I'll fix this. The situation with Marco, the problems at your firm. I'll make it right. How? Let me worry about that. He kissed her temple. You just focus on staying safe and keeping Lily safe. Can you do that? I can try. They sat like that for a while, wrapped in each other, pretending the world outside didn't exist. From the library came the sound of Lily's delighted laugh as she discovered something in one of the books. She's a remarkable kid, Giovanni said quietly. She is. She deserves better than the hand she's been dealt. A father who abandoned her, a mother stretched too thin, a life of barely getting by. I'm doing my best. I know you are. And it's more than enough. Giovanni pulled back to look at her. But what if it didn't have to be so hard? What if someone helped carry the weight? Giovanni, we've known each other for 2 weeks. I know, I'm not proposing marriage or asking you to move in. I'm just saying, let me help. Let me pay off some of your debt, get you into a safer apartment, make sure Lily has what she needs. Oh, cried Ward with practicality in Jessica's chest. I can't let you do that. Why not? Because it makes me feel like… She struggled for words. Like I'm being bought. You're not being bought. You're being cared for. There's a difference. Giovanni's thumb traced circles on her palm. I have more money than I know what to do with, Jessica. Let me use it for something good, for someone who matters. I matter? You matter. He said it like it was the simplest truth in the world. You and Lily both. Before Jessica could respond, Lily appeared in the doorway, clutching one of the books. Mommy, look! This book has pictures of feathered dinosaurs. Can we get it? Giovanni stood immediately. You can keep it. Consider it a gift. Really? Lily's face lit up. Thank you, Mr. Giovanni. Just Giovanni is fine. He ruffled her hair gently. Are you hungry? I could order pizza. I love pizza. So they ordered pizza, pepperoni for Lily, margarita for Jessica and Giovanni, and ate it in his enormous kitchen while Lily regaled them with more dinosaur facts. It felt domestic and normal and completely surreal. At 9 o'clock, Jessica reluctantly said they needed to go. Lily was practically asleep on her feet, the dinosaur book clutched to her chest. Giovanni walked them to the car, a different one this time, a more modest sedan. My driver will take you home. He'll wait until you're safely inside. You don't have to. I do. Giovanni kissed her goodbye, soft and sweet, mindful of Lily watching from the car. Text me when you're home. And Jessica? Be careful. The next few days might get complicated. More complicated than they already are? His expression was grim. Much more. The meeting with the Russians was scheduled for Wednesday night at a warehouse in Bridgeport. Giovanni told Jessica this via text Tuesday afternoon, along with a warning not to leave her apartment after dark. It's just a precaution, he wrote. Everything will be fine. But Jessica could read between the lines. The situation with Marco was escalating, and Giovanni was walking into something dangerous. Wednesday crawled by. Jessica went to work, tried to focus on her cases, watched the clock like it might somehow speed up or slow down time. At 5, Linda stopped by her desk. The inquiries have stopped. I don't know what you did, but whatever it was, it worked. I ended it, Jessica said. With Giovanni. It's over. Linda's expression softened. I'm sorry. I know that couldn't have been easy. If only she knew how little over it actually was. At home that evening, Jessica went through the motions. Dinner with Lily, bath time, bedtime stories, while her mind spun with worry. She tucked her daughter in, kissed her forehead, and then sat on the couch with her phone in her hand, waiting. 9 o'clock. Nothing. 10 o'clock. Nothing. 11 o'clock. Jessica was ready to call the police when her phone finally rang. I'm okay. Giovanni's voice was rough, strained. It's done. What happened? The Russians agreed to term. Territories are respected, everyone profits, crisis averted. He sounded exhausted. Marco's satisfied. For now. Relief flooded through Jessica. So it's over? The immediate threat, yes. But Marco, Giovanni paused. Marco made it clear that he sees you as an asset, a way to ensure my cooperation. What does that mean? It means you need to be more careful than ever. It means my people stay on you and Lily until I'm certain Marco's backed off. His voice dropped. It means I'm sorry I ever pulled you into this world. I pulled myself in, Jessica reminded him. I said yes to this arrangement. You said yes to helping me deal with my family's expectations. You didn't sign up for organized crime and Russian mobsters. No, Jessica agreed, but I signed up for you. And that apparently comes with complications. A long silence. Then, can I see you tomorrow? I know we're supposed to be publicly broken up, but I just need to see you. Come for dinner. I'll cook something that isn't scrambled eggs. I'd like that. I'd like that very much. Thursday night, Giovanni arrived at 7 with flowers and wine and dark circles under his eyes that suggested he hadn't slept since the meeting. Jessica let him in, watched as Lily launched herself at him with a hug that he returned without hesitation. Over chicken and pasta, Jessica's specialty, one of the few dishes she could make without burning, Giovanni was quiet, distracted. After dinner, after Lily went to bed, Jessica finally asked, What aren't you telling me? Giovanni set down his wine glass. Marco wants me more involved in his operations. Says if I'm going to enjoy the benefits of our family's alliance, I need to contribute more directly. And if you say no, then he makes life difficult. For me, for my legitimate businesses, for... He stopped. For people I care about. He threatened me again. Not explicitly, but the implication was clear. Giovanni's hands clenched into fists. I won't let him use you as leverage, Jessica. I won't. So what do you do? I'm considering my options. There are ways to extract myself from Marco's influence, but they're not simple, and they're not safe. He looked at her, his expression raw. Which is why I need to know. Are you in this? Really in this? Because if not, I need to end it now, before things get worse. Jessica thought about her safe, boring life 2 weeks ago. Thought about the years stretching ahead, unchanging and predictable. Then she thought about Saturday mornings with burnt toast and dinosaur books. Thought about the way Giovanni looked at Lily like she was precious. Thought about how, despite the danger and the complications, she felt more alive than she had in years. I'm in, she said. Whatever comes next, I'm in. Giovanni pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. Thank you. Thank you for choosing this. For choosing me. They stayed like that, wrapped in each other. While outside the night deepened and somewhere across the city, Marco Martinelli made plans that would change everything. The call came at 2 in the morning. Jessica jerked awake, her phone vibrating violently on the nightstand. Giovanni's name glowed on the screen and her heart immediately started racing. Hello? Don't panic. His voice was tight, controlled. But I need you to listen carefully. Take Lily and go to my house right now. My driver is already downstairs. Jessica was already out of bed, pulling on clothes. What happened? The Russians went back on the agreement. There was a shooting at one of Marco's clubs an hour ago. 3 dead, including one of Marco's nephews. Giovanni's breath came hard, like he was moving. Marco thinks I set him up. He's sending people to your apartment. Ice flooded Jessica's veins. Oh my God. You have maybe 10 minutes. Pack light, just essentials. My driver will bring you here, and you'll be safe. I promise you'll be safe. Jessica was already in Lily's room, scooping her sleeping daughter into her arms. Lily stirred, confused. Mommy? Shh, baby. We're going on an adventure. Remember Giovanni's house? We're going to stay there for a little while. She grabbed Lily's backpack, stuffed it with clothes, the dinosaur book, Lily's favorite stuffed triceratops. Her hands were shaking so badly she could barely zip it closed. Jessica, are you moving? Giovanni's voice was urgent. Yes, we're going now. Good. Don't stop for anything. Don't talk to anyone. Just get in the car. The black sedan was idling at the curb, the driver already out and opening the back door. Jessica ran, clutching Lily against her chest, the backpack bouncing against her shoulder. Go! Go! The driver barely waited for them to get in before peeling away from the curb. Jessica looked back and saw 2 men emerging from a dark SUV parked down the block. They were running toward her building. Oh God! Oh God! She pulled Lily closer, her daughter now fully awake and starting to cry. Mommy, I'm scared. I know, baby, I know. But we're safe. We're going to Giovanni's house, and everything's going to be okay. But Jessica didn't know if that was true. Didn't know anything except that her life had just turned into a nightmare she couldn't wake up from. The drive to Lincoln Park took 15 minutes that felt like hours. The driver said nothing, his eyes constantly checking the mirrors. When they finally pulled up to Giovanni's brownstone, he was already at the door, pulling them inside before Jessica could even get her bearings. Are you hurt? Either of you? His hands were on her face, her shoulders, checking for injuries. We're fine. We're okay. Jessica was shaking. Giovanni, what the hell is happening? Inside. Now. He locked the door behind them, engaged what looked like a seriously sophisticated security system. There are guest rooms upstairs. Second door on the right. Get Lily settled, then come back down. Jessica carried her daughter upstairs, found the guest room, bigger than her entire apartment, it seemed, and tucked Lily into a bed that could have slept 4 people. Mommy, why did we have to leave? Lily's eyes were wide, frightened. Because... Jessica struggled for an explanation that wouldn't terrify her daughter more. Because our apartment had a problem. A pipe burst, and we can't stay there until it's fixed, so Giovanni is letting us stay here. For how long? I don't know, baby. But you're safe. I promise you're safe. She stayed until Lily's breathing evened out, until she was certain her daughter was asleep. Then she went back downstairs. Giovanni was in what looked like an office, talking rapidly in Italian on his phone. When he saw her, he ended the call abruptly. She's asleep? For now. Jessica wrapped her arms around herself. Tell me everything. No more protecting me, no more keeping me in the dark. I need to know what we're up against. Giovanni poured 2 glasses of whiskey, handed her one. The meeting Wednesday night, it went well. Too well, I realize now. The Russians agreed to Marco's terms without negotiation, which should have been a red flag. But you didn't see it. No, I was too focused on getting it done, getting you safe. He downed his whiskey in one swallow. Tonight, the Russians hit one of Marco's clubs. Killed his nephew, 2 associates, wounded 4 others. It was a message. What kind of message? That they never intended to honor the agreement, that they're taking Marco's territory whether he likes it or not. Giovanni refilled his glass. And Marco thinks I facilitated it, that I used my family's reputation to set up the meeting so the Russians could identify his key people. That's insane. Why would you do that? Money, power. Take your pick. Giovanni's laugh was bitter. In Marco's world, betrayal is the default assumption. Loyalty is just a transaction waiting to be reversed. Jessica sank into a leather chair. So he's coming after you? He's already coming after me. The question is how far he'll go. Giovanni knelt in front of her, his hands on her knees. Which is why you and Lily are staying here. This house is a fortress. Security cameras, reinforced doors, panic room in the basement. You'll be safe while I figure this out. Figure what out? How to prove I wasn't involved. How to stop a war between Marco and the Russians. How to... He stopped himself. How to protect everyone I care about. Jessica's hand cupped his face. What about you? Who's protecting you? I can take care of myself. Can you? Because from where I'm sitting, you're caught between 2 groups of violent criminals who both want you dead. Not dead, I'm too valuable dead. Giovanni's smile was grim. Marco needs me to broker with the Russians. The Russians need me to legitimize their operations. As long as I'm useful to both sides, I stay alive. That's not reassuring. It's not meant to be. It's just the truth. Giovanni stood, pulled her up with him. You should try to sleep. It's late. I'm not sleeping, not after this. Jessica followed him as he moved through the house, checking locks, monitoring security feeds. Giovanni, we need to call the police. And tell them what? That 2 crime families are having a territorial dispute? They already know. They don't care as long as civilians aren't caught in the crossfire. But we are civilians. Lily is here, which means she's under my protection, which means she's off limits. His jaw was set. I've already sent word through channels. The child is not to be touched. Anyone who comes near her answers to me. You can't just declare that. I can, and I did. There are rules in this world, Jessica. Lines that don't get crossed. Children are one of them. Giovanni's eyes were hard. Marco knows this. The Russians know this. They might be criminals, but they're not animals. Jessica wanted to believe him, wanted to trust that there was some code of honor among thieves that would keep her daughter safe. But she'd seen too many news stories, knew too much about what desperate men were capable of. How long do we have to stay here? I don't know. Days, maybe weeks, until I can resolve this situation. I have a job, Giovanni. Lily has school. We can't just disappear. You'll call in sick. I'll hire a tutor for Lily. Giovanni's tone left no room for argument. This isn't negotiable, Jessica. Your safety comes first. They stood in his living room, the city lights filtering through expensive curtains, and Jessica felt the full weight of what she'd gotten herself into. This wasn't a fake relationship anymore. This wasn't playing pretend at gallery openings and family dinners. This was real danger, real consequences, real fear that twisted in her gut like a knife. I'm sorry. Giovanni's voice was rough. I'm so sorry I brought this into your life. You didn't bring it. I chose to walk into it. Jessica moved into his arms, let herself be held. But we need a plan. We need to figure out how to end this. I'm working on it. Work faster. The next morning, Jessica woke to find Lily already up, exploring Giovanni's house with wide-eyed wonder. She found her daughter in the library, pulling books off shelves. "Mommy, look! Giovanni has so many books about dinosaurs. Can we read them?" "Sure, baby." Jessica tried to keep her voice normal, tried to pretend this was a fun sleepover and not protective custody. But first, breakfast. Giovanni's kitchen was absurdly well stocked for someone who claimed he couldn't cook. Jessica made pancakes while Lily chattered about the book she'd found, and for a few minutes it almost felt normal. Then Giovanni appeared, his phone pressed to his ear, his expression grim. "I understand. Yes. Tonight." He ended the call. "I have to go out." "Out where?" Jessica's stomach clenched. "Meeting with Marco. He wants to talk." "That's a trap." "Probably, but I don't have a choice." Giovanni crouched down to Lily's level. "Hey, dinosaur expert, I need you to do something for me." Lily nodded seriously. "I need you to take care of your mom today. Keep her company. Make sure she doesn't worry too much. Can you do that?" "I can do that." "Good girl." Giovanni ruffled her hair, then straightened. "My housekeeper will be here in an hour, Maria. She's been with my family for 20 years. You can trust her." "Giovanni." Jessica followed him to the door. "Don't go, please. There has to be another way." "There isn't." He kissed her, hard and desperate. "I'll be back. I promise I'll be back." "You can't promise that." "Watch me." Then he was gone, the door closing behind him with a finality that made Jessica's chest ache. Maria arrived exactly an hour later, a stout woman in her 60s with kind eyes and no-nonsense demeanor. She took one look at Jessica's face and patted her hand. "He'll be fine. That boy has 9 lives. You know what's happening?" "I know enough. I know Giovanni's father got mixed up with bad people, and now Giovanni's trying to get untangled. I know he's a good man trying to do right in a wrong world." Maria moved toward the kitchen. "Come, I'll make lunch, and you'll tell me about this beautiful daughter of yours." Lunch became an unexpected respite. Maria made pasta from scratch, taught Lily how to roll the dough, told stories about Giovanni as a boy that made Jessica's heart ache with affection for the man he'd become. "He was always serious," Maria said, shaping tortellini with practiced hands. "Even as a child. Too serious," his mother said, "but kind. Always so kind to those who had less." "Were his parents—" Jessica glanced at Lily, lowered her voice. "Were they involved in this world?" Maria's expression darkened. "His father was. Made deals he shouldn't have made with men like Marco Martinelli. It's what killed him in the end." "He's dead?" 5 years ago, heart attack officially. But we all knew. The stress, the fear, it ate him alive. Maria's hands stilled. Giovanni swore he'd be different, that he'd keep the legitimate businesses, cut ties with the criminal elements, but it's not so easy to walk away from that life. Jessica thought about Giovanni's face when he left this morning, the resignation in his eyes. No, I suppose it's not. The afternoon dragged. Jessica tried to distract herself with Lily, reading dinosaur books and watching cartoons, but her mind kept drifting to Giovanni, to whatever meeting was happening, to all the ways it could go wrong. At 4 o'clock, her phone rang. Unknown number. "Hello? Jessica Reed?" The voice was unfamiliar, accented. Russian, she thought. "Who is this?" "A friend. I have information about Giovanni Fioraldi that you need to hear." "I'm not interested. He's using you. As insurance, leverage against Marco Martinelli. Did you think his interest was genuine?" The voice was smooth, persuasive. "Men like Giovanni don't fall for women like you. Single mothers struggling to pay rent. You're a means to an end." Jessica's hand tightened on the phone. "You don't know what you're talking about." "Don't I?" "Ask yourself, why did he choose you at that wedding? Out of all the women there, why a broke paralegal with a child? Because you're exactly what he needed. Respectable, sympathetic, someone Marco couldn't touch without looking like a monster." "You're lying." "Am I?" "Then ask him. Ask Giovanni why he really approached you. Ask him about the conversation he had with his father's old associate 2 days before the wedding. Ask him about the plan to use a relationship to stabilize his reputation." The voice paused. "Or don't ask." Keep living the fantasy. But know that when this is over, when you're no longer useful, he'll discard you like yesterday's newspaper." The line went dead. Jessica stood frozen, the phone still pressed to her ear. It wasn't true. It couldn't be true. Giovanni had been genuine, his feelings real, hadn't they? But doubt crept in like poison. The timing of their meeting, the immediate intensity, the way he'd stepped in so smoothly with her family, like he'd been prepared for exactly that scenario. "Mommy?" Lily tugged on her sleeve. "Are you okay?" "I'm fine, baby." Jessica forced a smile. "Just a work call." But she wasn't fine. And when Maria called them for dinner and Giovanni still wasn't back, the doubt grew stronger. He didn't come home at 6, or 7, or 8. By 9 o'clock, Jessica was pacing Giovanni's living room, her phone in her hand, debating whether to call the police, the hospital, anyone who might know where he was. Then she heard the locks disengage. Giovanni stumbled through the door and Jessica's breath caught. His shirt was torn, blood on his collar, a bruise blooming along his jaw. "Oh my God!" She was across the room in seconds. "What happened?" Marco wanted to make a point. Giovanni's voice was rough, pained. "I'm fine. It looks worse than it is." "You're bleeding." "Just a split lip. I've had worse." But he let her guide him to the couch, let her examine the damage. Maria appeared with a first aid kit, tisking in Italian. "You stupid boy. One of these days you won't walk back through that door." "Not today, Maria. Not today." After Maria retreated, muttering about foolish men and their pride, Jessica cleaned Giovanni's wounds with shaking hands. "Tell me what happened." Marco wanted assurances, proof that I wasn't working with the Russians. Giovanni winced as she dabbed antiseptic on his split lip. "I gave him what he wanted, which was information. Names of Russian contacts, locations of some of their operations. Enough to show I'm still on his side." Jessica's hand stilled. "You betrayed the Russians?" "I gave Marco intelligence he would have gotten anyway. I just expedited the process." Giovanni caught her wrist. "It was the only way to buy us time, to keep him from coming after you and Lily." "And what happens when the Russians find out?" "They won't. The information I gave was already compromised. Marco will think he's gotten an advantage, but really, I've just shifted the playing field." Jessica sat back. "You're playing both sides." "I'm surviving. There's a difference." Giovanni pulled her closer. "Jessica, I know this is terrifying. I know you didn't sign up for any of this, but I need you to trust me. I will get us through this." She wanted to ask about the phone call, wanted to demand the truth about why he'd really approached her at the wedding. But looking at his battered face, the exhaustion in his eyes, she couldn't bring herself to add to his burden. "Lily's asleep," she said instead. "Maria put her down an hour ago." "Good. That's good." Giovanni leaned back against the couch, closing his eyes. "I'm sorry for all of this. You deserve better than to be caught in my war." "Maybe, but I'm here anyway." Jessica's hand found his. "So tell me the truth. Is there a way out of this, or are we just waiting for the inevitable?" Giovanni opened his eyes, looked at her with an intensity that made her breath catch. "There's always a way out. It just depends what you're willing to sacrifice to get there." "What do you mean?" "I mean, I could walk away. Liquidate the American operations, move back to Italy, cut ties with Marco and the Russians, and everyone else who's trying to pull me into their world." His thumb traced circles on her palm. "But that would mean leaving Chicago, leaving you and Lily." Jessica's heart stuttered. "You do that? Leave everything? For you?" "Yes." Giovanni said it simply, like it was the most obvious thing in the world. "I told you, you matter, both of you, more than business, more than family obligation, more than any of this. We've known each other for 3 weeks. I've known you long enough to know I don't want to lose you." Giovanni pulled her into his lap, his arms wrapping around her. "I'm falling in love with you, Jessica Reed. I know it's fast and insane and completely impractical, but it's true." The words she'd been too afraid to acknowledge echoed in her own chest. "I think I'm falling in love with you too, which is terrifying because you're right. This is insane." "The best things usually are." Giovanni kissed her, soft and careful around his split lip. So here's what I'm proposing. Give me 2 weeks. 2 weeks to untangle this mess with Marco and the Russians. If I can't resolve it in that time, we leave. All 3 of us. We start over somewhere safe. And if you can resolve it, then we stay. I build the legitimate business I've always wanted. We figure out what this is between us without guns and threats and criminal enterprises hanging over our heads. Jessica thought about her apartment, her job, her life in Chicago. Thought about starting over in a foreign country with a man she barely knew. It was crazy. Reckless. Everything she'd sworn she'd never do again after Derek. But Derek had been a lie. And Giovanni, damaged, dangerous, impossibly complicated Giovanni, felt like the first real thing she'd had in years. 2 weeks, she agreed, but you have to promise me something. Anything. Promise me you won't die trying to fix this. Because Lily's already lost one father. I won't let her lose another. Giovanni's expression shifted, something vulnerable and raw crossing his features. Another? You've been more of a father to her in 3 weeks than Derek was in 6 years. She talks about you constantly, asks when you're coming over, lights up when she sees you. Jessica's voice cracked. So, promise me, Giovanni. Promise me you'll come back. I promise. He sealed it with a kiss. I will always come back to you, both of you. They sat like that, wrapped in each other, while outside the night deepened, and across the city, Marco Martinelli and the Russian syndicate made their own plans. The next week passed in a strange limbo. Jessica and Lily stayed in Giovanni's house, a gilded cage that grew more comfortable even as the danger outside intensified. Maria became a surrogate grandmother to Lily, teaching her Italian phrases and how to make pasta. Giovanni came and went at odd hours, always tense, always checking his phone, but finding time to read dinosaur books with Lily before bed. Jessica called in sick to work, invented a story about a family emergency. Linda wasn't fooled. This is about Giovanni, isn't it? I can't talk about it, but I'll be back soon. I promise. Jessica, if you're in danger, I'm handling it. Just trust me. But on the 8th day, everything changed. Jessica was reading in the library when Giovanni burst through the front door, his face ashen. We need to leave. Now. Pack only what you need. What happened? The Russians know I fed information to Marco. They're coming for me, and they won't care who gets caught in the crossfire. Giovanni was already moving, pulling bags from closets. We have maybe an hour. An hour until what? Until they get here. I've got a plane waiting at a private airfield. We're going to Milan. Jessica's mind reeled. I can't just leave. My job, my apartment, my life. We'll still be here when it's safe to come back. But right now, staying means dying. Giovanni grabbed her shoulders. Jessica, please, trust me. We have to go. She looked at his face, the fear, the desperation, and made her choice. Okay, we'll go. Jessica ran upstairs, grabbed Lily from where she was playing in the guest room. Baby, we're taking a trip, a real adventure this time, to Italy. Italy? Lily's eyes went wide. Where the dinosaur fossils are? Exactly. Now help Mommy pack. 20 minutes later, they were in Giovanni's car, speeding toward the airfield. Lily was in the back seat, clutching her dinosaur book, excited about the adventure. Jessica sat in front, her heart pounding, watching the city disappear behind them. What about Marco? She asked quietly. Marco's problems are about to get much worse. I've sent evidence to the FBI, years of documentation about his operations. By tomorrow, he'll have much bigger concerns than me. You're burning your bridges. I'm burning the whole damn city if it means keeping you safe. Giovanni's hand found hers. No regrets, Jessica. Not about this. The airfield appeared, a small plane waiting on the tarmac. Giovanni's driver pulled up beside it, and suddenly they were boarding, buckling in, the engines already starting. As the plane lifted off, Jessica looked down at Chicago, her home, her entire life shrinking below them. Mommy, are we really going to Italy? Lily pressed her face to the window. We really are, baby. Will we come back? Jessica looked at Giovanni, at the man who'd turned her world upside down in 3 weeks, who'd shown her that love could be dangerous and desperate and absolutely worth it. Maybe, she said. Someday. But as the plane climbed into the night sky, leaving danger and doubt behind, Jessica realized she didn't care about coming back. She cared about going forward. With Giovanni, with Lily, with this impossible, improbable family they were building from broken pieces and desperate choices. "I love you," she whispered, loud enough for only Giovanni to hear. His hand tightened on hers. "I love you too. Both of you. And I swear to you, wherever we land, whatever comes next, I will never let anything hurt either of you again." And somehow, 30,000 feet above the ground, fleeing from one life toward another, Jessica believed him. The villa in Piedmont sat on a hillside overlooking endless rows of grapevines, the morning sun painting everything gold. Jessica stood on the terrace, a cup of espresso in her hands, watching Lily chase butterflies through the garden below. 3 weeks in Italy, and her daughter had already picked up enough Italian from Maria, who'd flown over to help them settle, to order gelato and ask about dinosaurs at the Natural History Museum in Turin. 3 weeks, and Jessica still woke up some mornings expecting to find herself back in her cramped Chicago apartment. This entire adventure nothing but a fever dream. "You're thinking too loud." Giovanni's arms wrapped around her from behind, his chin resting on her shoulder. "I can hear your doubts from inside the house." "I'm not doubting, just adjusting." Jessica leaned back into his warmth. "A month ago, I was worried about making rent. Now I'm living in an Italian villa, drinking wine that probably costs more than my car, watching my daughter become bilingual. Regretting it. Not for a second." She turned in his arms. "But we can't hide here forever, Giovanni. Eventually, we have to face what we left behind." His expression darkened. "I know. I've been getting updates." "And?" "Marco was arrested 4 days ago. The FBI evidence was enough for racketeering charges, conspiracy, money laundering. He's looking at 20 years minimum." Giovanni's jaw tightened. "His organization is in chaos. The Russians are moving in to fill the vacuum, but they're fighting amongst themselves. It's a mess. A mess you created. A mess I escaped." He corrected her gently. "There's a difference. I didn't start this war, Jessica. I just chose not to die in it." A phone rang inside the house, Giovanni's business line. He kissed her forehead and went to answer it, leaving Jessica alone with her coffee and her thoughts. The past 3 weeks had been surreal. Days spent exploring the countryside, visiting ancient churches and Roman ruins. Evenings in the vineyard, Giovanni teaching Lily about grape cultivation while Jessica watched, her heart so full it hurt. Nights wrapped in Giovanni's arms in the massive bed they shared, finally able to touch him, without fear, without guards or threats lurking in the shadows. It should have been perfect, and it was, mostly. Except for the nagging voice in her head that whispered this couldn't last, that eventually reality would intrude, that the life they were building was as temporary as the summer flowers blooming in the garden. Giovanni emerged 20 minutes later, his expression troubled. "That was my attorney in Chicago. The FBI wants to talk to me." Jessica's stomach dropped. "About Marco? And about me. They want to know what I knew, when I knew it, whether I was complicit in any of his operations." Giovanni ran a hand through his hair. "They're offering immunity if I cooperate fully, testify against Marco, provide documentation, help them dismantle what's left of his organization. And if you don't? Then I stay here. Never set foot in America again. Forfeit everything I built there, the businesses, the properties, all of it." He looked at her. "And you and Lily stay here too, because going back without me isn't safe." Jessica set down her cup carefully. "What do you want to do?" "I want to burn it all down. The whole corrupt system, every connection to my father's old deals, every compromise I made to survive in that world." Giovanni's voice was fierce. "I want to start clean. No more Marco, no more Russians, no more looking over my shoulder wondering when the next threat will come." "Then do it. Cooperate. Testify. End this." "It's not that simple. If I testify, I make enemies. Powerful enemies who won't care that I'm in witness protection or living in Italy. They'll come for me eventually. Which means they'll come for you and Lily." "We're already targets, Giovanni. We have been since the moment you pulled us into this." Jessica moved closer, her hands framing his face. "At least this way we'd be fighting back, taking control instead of just running. He studied her face for a long moment. You understand what you're asking. If I do this, if I testify, our lives change completely. We can't go back to how things were. I don't want to go back to how things were. I want to move forward. With you. Wherever that leads. Giovanni pulled her close, buried his face in her hair. You're sure? Because once I start this, there's no stopping it. I'm sure. Jessica pulled back to look at him. Make the call. Let's end this. 2 days later, they were on a plane back to Chicago. This time, it wasn't a panicked flight in the middle of the night. It was a carefully coordinated return with FBI protection, secure transport, and enough legal paperwork to sink a ship. Lily thought they were going home for a visit. She chattered excitedly about seeing her old apartment, her school friends, Mrs. Chen. Jessica didn't have the heart to tell her that home wasn't that cramped apartment anymore, that it might never be again. The FBI had set them up in a safe house in the suburbs, a nondescript ranch house that could have belonged to anyone. Agents stationed outside, security cameras on every corner, the whole setup designed to keep them invisible while Giovanni prepared to testify. The first meeting with the prosecutors was intense. They wanted everything: dates, names, transactions, connections. Giovanni sat across from them in a borrowed conference room and systematically dismantled Marco Martinelli's entire operation, piece by piece. Jessica waited outside with Lily, trying to keep her daughter entertained with coloring books and iPad games while her world shifted on its axis. When Giovanni emerged 4 hours later, he looked exhausted. They want me to testify in front of a grand jury next week, then again at trial when it goes to court. He collapsed into the chair beside her. It's going to take months, Jessica, maybe longer. Then we'll wait months. Oh, she took his hand. We've come this far. We're not backing out now. That night, after Lily was asleep in the safe house's guest bedroom, Jessica and Giovanni sat on the back porch, watching fireflies blink in the darkness. I need to tell you something. Giovanni's voice was quiet. Something I should have told you a long time ago. Jessica's stomach clenched. Okay. That phone call you got from the Russian while I was meeting with Marco, when he said I was using you as leverage, that I'd planned the whole thing. Giovanni's hands fisted. He wasn't entirely wrong. The words hit like a physical blow. What? Before the wedding, 2 days before, I met with one of my father's old associates. He suggested that being seen with someone respectable would help stabilize my reputation with the business community. Make me look less like my father, more like a legitimate businessman. Giovanni's voice was steady but pained. So when I went to that wedding, I was looking, scanning the room for possibilities. Jessica pulled her hand away. So it was calculated from the beginning. It was calculated, and then I saw you. Giovanni turned to face her. Sitting alone at that table, looking like you wanted to be anywhere else, and I thought, yes, she's perfect. Exactly what I need. Respectable, sympathetic, someone Marco couldn't touch. Stop, please stop. Jessica stood, wrapping her arms around herself. But then we danced, and you told me about Lily, about your divorce, about feeling isolated and judged, and I realized you weren't perfect because you fit some strategic profile. You were perfect because you were real. Giovanni stood too, moving toward her. I've spent my whole life around people who want something from me. Power, money, connections. You just wanted to get through the evening without your family making you feel like a failure. That doesn't make it better. No, it doesn't. But here's what I need you to understand. Yes, I approached you for calculated reasons. Yes, I suggested the arrangement because it served my purposes. But everything that came after, every moment we spent together, every conversation, every time I looked at you and felt my chest get tight, that wasn't calculated. That was me falling for someone I never expected to find. Jessica turned to look at him. How do I know that's true? How do I know you're not just saying what I need to hear? Because I'm risking everything to keep you safe. Giovanni's voice broke slightly. I gave the FBI evidence that will destroy men who've known me my entire life. I'm testifying against people who will want me dead for the rest of my life. I'm burning every bridge I have because the thought of losing you and Lily is worse than any of it. You should have told me. From the beginning. You're right. I should have. He didn't try to touch her, didn't move closer. And if you want to walk away right now, I'll understand. I'll make sure you and Lily are protected, set you up somewhere safe, and disappear from your lives. You deserve better than a man who started your relationship with manipulation. Jessica looked at him, really looked at him, at the exhaustion in his face, the fear in his eyes, the way his hands trembled slightly. This wasn't the smooth, confident man who'd approached her at the wedding. This was someone raw and vulnerable and terrified of losing her. "I don't want you to disappear," she said quietly. "I want you to promise me no more secrets, no more calculated moves. If we're doing this, really doing this, it has to be real. All of it." "It is real. I swear to you, Jessica, everything I feel for you is real." Giovanni closed the distance between them. "I love you. Not because it's convenient or strategic, but because you make me want to be better than what my family made me. Because when Lily calls me Giovanni and shows me her dinosaur drawings, I feel like maybe I deserve something good. Because when I wake up next to you, I don't feel like I'm drowning anymore." Jessica's eyes burned with tears. "You hurt me by not telling me the truth." "I know, and I will spend however long it takes making that up to you." His hands cupped her face gently. "But please don't walk away. Not when we're so close to actually having a real chance." She let herself lean into his touch, let the tears fall. "No more secrets. No more secrets, I promise." They held each other on that suburban porch while the fireflies danced, and somewhere in the city, the legal machinery ground forward, preparing to tear apart the world Giovanni had been born into. The grand jury testimony happened on a Tuesday. Giovanni was gone for 6 hours, and Jessica paced the safe house like a caged animal, jumping at every sound, every car that passed. When he finally returned, flanked by federal marshals, he looked hollowed out. It's done. They're indicting Marco on 37 counts, his lieutenants on another 48. Giovanni sank onto the couch. The prosecutor says it's the biggest organized crime case in Chicago in 20 years. And you? I'm a cooperating witness, which means I'm protected as long as I keep cooperating. He looked at her. But it also means I can't go back to my old life. The businesses I built, the connections I made, all of it's tainted now. I have to start over completely. Jessica sat beside him. So we start over, together. You keep saying that like it's simple. It is simple. We love each other. We want to build a life together, so we do. She took his hand. The details, where we live, what you do for work, those are just logistics. We'll figure it out. What about Lily's school, your job, your family? My job I can get anywhere. Lily's young enough that changing schools won't damage her. And my family, Jessica paused, my family will have to accept that this is my life now, that you're part of it. As if summoned, her phone rang, her mother's name on the screen. I should take this. Jessica stepped outside. Hi, Mom. Jessica Ann Reed, you have been gone for almost a month with barely a word. Where are you? Is Lily okay? Your Aunt Patricia heard rumors that you left the country. Mom, stop. We're fine. We're back in Chicago, actually. Back? Where were you? Italy, with Giovanni. It's complicated, but we're safe. Jessica took a breath. And there's something you need to know. Something I should have told you weeks ago. She explained everything, or as much as she could without compromising the federal investigation, the fake relationship that became real, the danger from Marco, the decision to cooperate with the FBI. Her mother was silent through all of it. Mom? Are you still there? I'm here. Her mother's voice was shaky. Jessica, this is insane. You're involved with a man who's testifying against the mob? Yes. And you're in protective custody? For now, until the trial's over. Another long pause, then, are you happy? The question surprised her. What? Are you happy, Jessica, with this man, this life? Because if you are, if he makes you happy, then that's all that matters. Tears sprang to Jessica's eyes. I am, Mom. Happier than I've been in years. Then I support you. I don't understand it. And I'm terrified for you and Lily, but I support you. Her mother's voice strengthened. And when this is over, when it's safe, You bring that man to Sunday dinner, properly this time, so we can actually get to know him. I will, I promise. After hanging up, Jessica went back inside to find Giovanni reading to Lily from her dinosaur book. Her daughter was curled up against him, completely comfortable, completely trusting. My mom wants to have you over for dinner when this is all over, Jessica announced. Giovanni looked up, surprised. She does. She does. Apparently she's decided that if you make me happy, the rest doesn't matter. Jessica joined them on the couch. Fair warning, she'll probably interrogate you about your intentions. My intentions are to marry you as soon as you'll let me. The words came out casually, like he was commenting on the weather. Jessica froze. What? I know it's fast. I know we've only known each other 6 weeks, but I also know that I want to wake up next to you every morning for the rest of my life. That I want to be Lily's father, officially and permanently. That I want us to be a family. Giovanni set the book aside. So yes, my intentions are marriage, whenever you're ready. Giovanni, Jessica's voice caught. I'm not asking right now. There's too much chaos, too much uncertainty. But when this is over, when we're safe and settled, and you've had time to really think about what you want, I'm going to ask properly, with a ring and a romantic setting and all the things you deserve. Lily looked between them, confused. Are you going to be my daddy? Giovanni's expression softened. Would you like that? Yes. Lily threw her arms around him. I want you to be my daddy. Over her daughter's head, Jessica met Giovanni's eyes. She saw the future there, not the fantasy version from the wedding 3 weeks ago, but the real one. Messy and complicated and probably never entirely safe, but real. True. Theirs. Okay, she whispered. Okay? When this is over, when you ask properly, the answer will be yes. The trial began in September. By then, they'd settled into a routine at the safe house. Lily was enrolled in a nearby school under an assumed name. Jessica had started doing remote paralegal work for a firm that didn't ask too many questions. Giovanni spent his days preparing testimony with prosecutors and his evenings teaching Lily Italian and cooking dinner with Jessica. It was domestic and strange and somehow perfect. The trial itself was a media circus. The prosecution paraded witness after witness, building their case against Marco Martinelli and his associates. And then, on day 14, Giovanni took the stand. Jessica wasn't allowed in the courtroom. Too dangerous, the prosecutors said, even with security. So she watched from a remote feed in a federal building, her hands clenched in her lap, as Giovanni methodically destroyed any remaining connections to his father's world. He testified for 3 days, answered every question calmly, provided documentation for every claim, never wavered even when Marco's defense attorney tried to rattle him. On the 3rd day, the defense attorney played his final card. Mr. Fioraldi, isn't it true that you entered into a fake relationship with Jessica Reed specifically to appear more stable and respectable? Giovanni didn't flinch. Initially, yes. That was my intention when I approached her. Jessica's breath caught. They'd agreed he would be honest, but hearing him admit it publicly still stung. So you used her, manipulated her. I approached her for calculated reasons, yes, but what developed between us was genuine. I fell in love with Jessica Reed despite my initial intentions, not because of them. Giovanni looked directly at the camera, the one Jessica was watching through. She's the best thing that's ever happened to me, and I will spend the rest of my life making sure she knows that. The defense attorney scoffed. Very convenient. Tell me, Mr. Fioraldi, how much of your testimony today is also calculated? How much of it is you manipulating this court the way you manipulated Ms. Reed? None of it. Giovanni's voice was a steel. I'm telling the truth. About Marco Martinelli's crimes, about my father's involvement, about every deal and every compromise and every line we crossed. I'm telling the truth because I'm done lying. Because I want my daughter, my future daughter, to grow up knowing her father chose to do the right thing, even when it was hard. The courtroom erupted. The defense attorney moved for a mistrial. The judge banged his gavel, calling for order. And Jessica, watching from the federal building, cried tears she didn't fully understand. Pride and fear and overwhelming love all tangled together. The jury deliberated for 4 days. When the verdict came back, guilty on all counts, Jessica felt something shift in her chest, like a weight she'd been carrying finally lifted. Giovanni called her from outside the courthouse, his voice rough with emotion. "It's over. It's finally over." "Come home," Jessica said simply. "Come home to us." The safe house felt too small for celebration, but they tried. Maria had flown back from Italy for the verdict, and she cooked a feast. Lily, who didn't fully understand what had happened but knew it was important, made Giovanni a card with dinosaurs on it that read, "You're the best almost daddy ever." That night, after Lily was asleep and Maria had retired to the guest room, Giovanni and Jessica stood on the back porch again, in the same spot where he'd confessed his initial deception weeks earlier. "I have something for you." Giovanni pulled a small velvet box from his pocket. "I know I said I'd wait for a romantic setting, but I don't want to wait anymore. I don't want another day to go by where you're not officially mine." He opened the box. Inside was a ring, simple, elegant, a single diamond that caught the moonlight. "Jessica Reed, you are the strongest, bravest, most remarkable woman I've ever met. You took a chance on a broken man with a dangerous past, and you made me believe I could be something better. You let me into your life, into your daughter's life, and you gave me a family when I didn't deserve one." Giovanni dropped to one knee. "Will you marry me? Not for appearances, not for strategy, but because I love you and I want to spend every day for the rest of my life proving it?" Jessica's hands were shaking, tears streaming down her face. "Yes, yes, absolutely yes." He slid the ring onto her finger, and it fit perfectly. Then he was standing, pulling her into his arms, kissing her like she was oxygen, and he'd been drowning. "Thank you," he whispered against her lips. "Thank you for saving me." "You saved me too," Jessica whispered back. "You and Lily both." They were married 3 months later in a small ceremony at Giovanni's villa in Piedmont. Jessica's family flew over, her mother crying through the entire service, her father grudgingly admitting that Giovanni seemed like a decent man, all things considered. Even Aunt Patricia conceding that the wedding was lovely, despite the unusual circumstances. Lily was the flower girl, throwing rose petals with abandon and loudly announcing to anyone who would listen that her daddy was the best daddy in the whole world. Giovanni's mother, Lucia, welcomed Jessica into the family with warmth and grace, pulling her aside before the ceremony to press an antique locket into her hands. "This was my grandmother's. She gave it to me when I married Salvatore, told me it would protect our family." Lucia's eyes were misty. "You're my family now, Jessica. You and that beautiful daughter. Take care of my son. He's been lost for so long, but I see the way he looks at you, like he's finally found his way home." The ceremony itself was simple. No pretense, no performance, just two people promising to love each other through whatever came next. When the officiant pronounced them married, Giovanni kissed her with such tenderness that Jessica forgot about the crowd, the cameras, everything except this moment. At the reception, as they danced under strings of lights in the vineyard, Giovanni whispered in her ear, "Do you remember what you said to me? On the plane, when we were running. I said a lot of things on that plane. You said maybe we'd go back to Chicago someday. Do you still want to?" Jessica looked around, at the villa where they'd spent the summer, at the vineyard stretching into twilight, at Lily dancing with Maria, at all the beautiful things that had become their life. "I don't know," she said honestly. "This feels like home now. You feel like home." "Then we stay. We build our life here, raise Lily here, and maybe—" Giovanni's hand rested on her waist. "Maybe we add to our family, if you want more children." Jessica's breath caught. "You want more children?" "I want everything with you. Children, chaos, years and years of dinosaur facts and burned dinners, and waking up next to you." Giovanni pulled her closer. "I want the whole messy, beautiful thing, if you do." "I do?" Jessica kissed him. "I really, really do." A year later, they stood in the same vineyard, this time with a different kind of celebration. Jessica's second daughter, Francesca Maria Fioraldi, named for both grandmothers, had just turned 1 month old. The christening had been earlier that afternoon, and now friends and family gathered to toast the newest member of the Fioraldi family. Lily, now 7.5, held her baby sister with the careful concentration of an older sibling determined to prove herself responsible. Giovanni watched them both with an expression of such pure contentment that it made Jessica's heart ache. "You're staring," she murmured, moving to stand beside him. "Can you blame me? Look at them. Look at what we made." "We made a lot of things." Jessica leaned into him. "A family, a home, a life that actually makes sense." "Does it make sense? Sometimes I still can't believe this is real, that I get to have this." "Believe it, because I'm not going anywhere." Jessica turned in his arms. "We survived Marco Martinelli, the Russian mob, federal investigations, and Lily's dinosaur phase, though I'm not sure that one's actually over. We can survive anything." Giovanni laughed, the sound rich and genuine. "The dinosaur phase is definitely not over. She told me this morning she wants to be a paleontologist when she grows up. She also told me she wants to be a princess who discovers dinosaurs. Well, she is Italian royalty now. Technically. Technically, she's the daughter of a wine merchant and a former paralegal who got very, very lucky." Jessica kissed him softly. "But I'll take it." The evening stretched on, toasts and laughter, stories about the past year, plans for the future. Jessica's mother held baby Francesca and cried happy tears. Giovanni's mother taught Lily a traditional Italian lullaby. And somewhere in the midst of it all, Jessica found herself on the terrace overlooking the vineyard, the same place she'd stood that first morning in Italy, uncertain and afraid. Now there was no uncertainty, no fear, just gratitude for the strange, twisted path that had brought her here. "Mommy?" Lily appeared beside her, still in her christening dress. "Are you happy?" Jessica pulled her daughter close. "I'm very happy, baby. Are you?" "So happy. I have the best family ever." Lily leaned against her. "Even if Francesca can't talk about dinosaurs yet. Give her time. You'll teach her everything." "I will. And Daddy will help. He's really good at dinosaur stuff now." Lily paused. "Mommy, do you remember our old apartment in Chicago?" "I do." "Why?" "I was thinking about it today. How small it was, and how we didn't have very much." Lily looked up at her. "Are we rich now?" Jessica considered the question carefully. "We're comfortable. We have more than we used to." "That's good, because Mrs. Chen sent me a letter and she said she misses us, but she's glad we're happy. And I wanted to send her something nice to say thank you for taking care of me." Jessica's throat tightened. "That's very thoughtful, Lily. I'm sure we can arrange something." "Good." Satisfied, Lily skipped off to rejoin the party. Giovanni appeared a moment later, 2 glasses of wine in hand. "What was that about?" "Our daughter has a generous heart." Jessica took the glass he offered. "She wants to send a gift to Mrs. Chen in Chicago." "Then we'll send something. Whatever she wants." Giovanni clinked his glass against hers. "To generous hearts and second chances." "To family," Jessica added, "however we find it." They drank, watching the sun set over the vineyard, painting everything in shades of gold and amber. In the distance, Lily's laughter rang out, bright and untroubled. Baby Francesca made contented baby sounds from Lucia's arms, and somewhere in the house, Maria was probably already planning dinner for tomorrow night, because that's what Maria did. It wasn't the life Jessica had imagined when she'd sat alone at table 12 at that wedding, drowning in champagne and regret. It wasn't safe or predictable or anything she'd thought she wanted. It was better. "Thank you," Giovanni said suddenly. "For what?" "For saying yes. That first night when I asked you to dance. You could have walked away, should have walked away probably, but you said yes and it changed everything." His arm tightened around her waist. Every moment since then, every beautiful, terrifying, impossible moment started with you saying yes. Jessica leaned her head on his shoulder, watching their family gather in the golden light. "Then I guess we're both lucky I said yes, because I can't imagine being anywhere else, with anyone else." "No more running?" "No more running," Jessica confirmed. "We're home." And standing there in the Italian twilight, surrounded by love and laughter and the family they'd built from broken pieces and desperate choices, Jessica Reed, now Fioraldi, finally believed it. This was home. This impossible, improbable, absolutely perfect home. And it had all started with a single dance.